Chapter 5271. Just at this moment. It was so quiet that only the painful panting of the crowd and Huang Wuyo's eerie laughter could be heard. The ferocious profound energy surged forward like a hot knife through butter. Feng Shi's tiny body, which was about to be crushed, suddenly felt light. The next moment his tiny body was hooked by a pair of soft hands. His entire body was pulled into a soft embrace. But the hand that was hooking his body was strangely cold. Even the embrace was not warm. But Feng Shi felt inexplicably at ease. It was as if all the fear and dread had dissipated at this moment. The bright golden light which was bursting out from his body gradually, slowly, calmed down. He blinked his big round eyes and stayed silent for a while in this ice-cold embrace. Then he suddenly reacted and struggled to get up. Ling Long. Just as he moved, a soft and cold hand covered his head and easily pressed him down. "Don't move, I'm here." The clear and melodious voice was like warm spring water which seeped into Feng Shi's heart. His struggling movements stopped. His line of sight slowly turned towards the person who was holding him in her arms. A face was reflected in her big black and white eyes. She had a stunning, flamboyant, devastatingly beautiful face. And at this moment, on the other side, Yiqing Luo had no time to care about who this lady who suddenly appeared was. By the time she regained her senses, Huang Wuyo's profound yin qi had already cut a path through the majestic profound energy around her. The qi waves condensed from the mysterious yin qi rippled and rippled. When it got close to Yiqing Luo, instantly it turned into a turbulent rolling wave, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The young girl dodged in time. Her black hair and pink dress were blown up by the wind. She couldn't avoid it, but she must not give Huang Wuyo a chance to turn the tables. No matter from emotion or reason, Ling Long must not be the key to Huang Wuyo to break the seal. No matter from emotion or reason, Ling Long must not be the key to Huang Wuyo to break the seal. The sharp murderous intent, lingering with frost, surged and rushed towards Yiqing Luo from behind. Yiqing Luo endured the heaviness in her chest and the sweetness in her throat. Her fingertips flicked and formed a profound wave which rushed towards the profound yin qi which surrounded Ling Long. Bam! Rumble. The deafening explosion almost shattered the entire space. It was as if the surrounding flames were surging restlessly. The sealed space fluctuated, and the energy fluctuations also fluctuated chaotically. What? Huang Wuyo had thought that victory was within his grasp, but the complacent expression on his face froze in an instant. He widened his eyes and bared his teeth in anger as he looked in front of him. His line of sight was completely blocked by the raging flames. That profound yin qi which attacked Yiqing Luo, it seemed to be blocked by something. His power was also draining away. How could this be? Huang Wuyo's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. It was as if everything was slowly slipping away from his grasp. After a few breaths of time, the raging flames slowly sank. Under the surging flames, a blurry figure gradually appeared. The surging flames were like fire dragons, lingering and circling. A peerless figure that wore a violet-colored embroidered robe was faintly discernible. The strong wind surged, blowing up his sleeves, making a fluttering sound. A handsome, godlike man, carrying a pink black-haired young lady, took slow and steady steps, gradually walking into the eyes of the crowd. The man's entire body was emitting a chill which made one unable to look straight at him. Sharp, domineering like a blade's edge. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5272. Even the purifying flames of the divine emperor seal that filled the sky seemed to be blocked by an invisible force when they approached the man. Not to mention Huang Wuyo's mysterious yin qi. It couldn't touch the man at all. In front of him, the surging majestic power in the surroundings became a foil. The man's face was cold and emotionless. It was as if everything in front of him couldn't make any waves in his eyes. Only when he looked down and saw the young woman in his arms did the expression on his face soften a little. The way he held the girl was so gentle, as if he was holding the most precious treasure in the world. To him she was the most precious treasure. The man's thin lips were pressed together, and there was a hint of hostility in them. His eyes swept over a certain place. He raised his hand slightly, and a violent hurricane swept out from his wide sleeves. There was a loud swoosh. The hurricane surged. In the blink of an eye, Ling Long, who had fainted from the erosion of the mysterious yin qi, was slowly carried to Feng Shi's direction by this force. The white-clothed woman, who looked like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world, extended her other hand and caught Ling Long. In the process, Huang Wuyo sensed the man's intention and immediately released the mysterious yin qi, which rolled up a terrifying and powerful force, in an attempt to stop the man. But he didn't have the chance to stop him. The man moved his fingers and the purple light was dazzling. He moved slightly. That incomparably sharp attack cut through the mysterious yin qi, heading straight for Huang Wuyo. The mysterious yin qi was scattered almost instantly. Huang Wuyo's eyes widened. When he came to himself, he gathered more mysterious yin qi to form a protective shield in front of him. It was also because of Huang Wuyo's action. The surrounding mysterious yin qi that was fighting against the Divine Emperor's seal was completely destroyed. The overbearing aura of the raging flames gained the upper hand. The mysterious yin qi that wrapped around Gu Jingyu's body also slowly dispersed. Gu Jingyu's body lost its support and fell to the ground. Bang! That energy pierced through the mysterious yin qi and forcefully landed on Huang Wuyo's body. Huang Wuyo's limbs were bound by the Divine Emperor's seal, so he couldn't move or dodge. Even after withstanding this attack, he was still firmly bound in midair. Pooh! Huang Wuyo spat out a mouthful of blood. Mo Xian. He gritted his teeth and spat out the other's name word by word. He stared fixedly at the figure who had suddenly appeared. His scarlet eyes were filled with hatred and anger towards the man, as well as disbelief, and also extreme panic and confusion. Yes, he was panicking. When facing this man, Huang Wuyo was flustered like never before. In the past, Huang Wuyo had heard of the rumors about the Dizun. For him, there was no one in the world who could enter his eyes. An unparalleled genius like him could only exist in this world. Therefore, even though the outside world was talking about his majesty as if he was a god, Huang Wuyo did not even put him in his eyes. Even if they fought later on, he felt that it was only because he was still sealed. If he was at his peak, he wouldn't even be afraid of a divine emperor, so why would he be afraid of a little kid? But at this moment, he was facing Mo Xian directly. After feeling Mo Xian's power, he started to panic. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 5273. Xian. The sudden change and reversal, as well as that calming aura, made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. Her fair little hand grabbed the man's lapel. She raised her head and met with that peerless elegance, the face which had been lingering in her heart. She blinked her eyes as her heart was indescribably touched. Xian. He could even find his way to this place. He was still the same as before. He was always able to save her when she was in the most danger, like a god descending from the sky when she needed him. The hand on her waist exerted a little more strength. The man's palm pinched her waist, and when his eyes met hers, his dark and deep voice carried a little threat and coldness. I'll deal with you later. It was rare that Yiqing Luo didn't refute. She obediently nestled in the man's arms and even slightly closed her eyes. Apparently, she was already exhausted to the extreme. And Mo Xian's appearance made her tensed-up emotions relaxed at this moment. At the same time, the exhaustion of her body and mind also rushed up. Mo Xian was both angry and distressed. Looking at the young lady's gorgeous face under the blazing flames, it looked pale and he couldn't bear to say a harsh word. He gently caressed the young lady's back, his mellow voice made one feel at ease. All right, I'm here, nothing will happen to them. Under the blazing flames, Yiqing Luo's pale pink lips slightly curved upwards, adding a weak and sickly look to the young lady. She naturally believed in Mo Xian. Mo Xian's arrival had basically set this ending. She knew. As long as he was here, it would definitely be as she wished, because he was Mo Xian, her god. After appeasing the young lady, Mo Xian slightly raised his eyes. His shimmering purple cold eyes stared indifferently at the shocked Huang Wuyo. He didn't put Huang Wuyo in his eyes at all. That attitude was still high and mighty, as though he was looking down at the ant Huang Wuyo. Mo Xian, do you know who I am? When had Huang Wuyo ever suffered such treatment? He had endured the 10,000 years of imprisonment, but only this disdainful attitude made him unable to tolerate it. For him, tens of thousands of people were merely playthings in the palm of his hand. If he wanted to live, he would live. If he wanted someone dead, they would die. Apart from Feng Guo, no one else was worthy of his attention. A young man was trying to show off in front of him while he was sealed? How dare they look down on him? Mo Xian's brows were calm and his eyes were indifferent. Who you are has nothing to do with this, lord. He raised his hand slightly. The knuckles of her slender hands were distinct, just like the finest porcelain jade. Under the illumination of the raging flames, It seemed to emit a layer of velvet light. However, there was an inexplicable sinister coldness that caused one's heart to tremble. You hurt someone I care about, so it's your fault. His cold and emotionless voice had just fallen. A terrifying and majestic profound light burst out from it. The mystic rays were like a hot knife through butter. Even the surrounding sealing force of the divine emperor could not suppress them. Huang Wuyo's body was abruptly blasted into the air by this mystic ray, as though he was forcefully lifted up. Huang Wuyo's eyes were filled with horror. The way he looked at Diamo Xian was already unconcealable shock and horror. He didn't know how long it had been since he left the restraints of the divine emperor's seal. But the man in front of him could directly suppress the power of the divine emperor's seal. Chapter 5274. Although the power of the divine emperor's seal was still firmly imprisoning him. In other words, this man could shake the power of the divine emperor's seal. At this moment, Huang Wuyo completely faced Diamo Xian. No, he could not drag it any longer. This man had already exceeded his expectations. He absolutely could not allow his 10,000 years of planning to fail at the last moment. Huang Wuyo did not hesitate at all, nor did he have the chance to hesitate. Almost at the moment when Diamo Xian struck again. Under the double pressure of the divine emperor's seal and Diamo Xian's aura, Huang Wuyo's eyes widened and a large mass of black fog gushed out. That thick black fog was filled with a terrifying evil aura. As if it was filled with thousands of malicious and evil thoughts. Just a little bit of contact. The darkness in the depths of his heart seemed to be drawn out by something, bit by bit. Oh! The young girl in Diamo Xian's arms was being eroded by the evil thoughts, making her feel uncomfortable. It was as if a sharp claw had stretched out from the depths of her soul, pulling at her soul. This soft moan caused the cold and indifferent man's expression to instantly change. Diamo Xian looked down at the person in his arms. The young girl's gorgeous face was covered with a thin layer of sweat. Her brows were knitted tightly as if she was suffering from some kind of pain. Diamo Xian's brows tightened as he softly called out, "Little Luo." His voice was gentle, with a hint of heartache. His slender jade-like fingers gently covered the young girl's forehead. A faint and cool profound energy poured into the young girl's body through her brows. It dispelled the discomfort of the young girl being eroded by evil thoughts. But it was also because of Diamo Xian's distraction. The thick black fog that gushed out from Huang Wuyo's eyes turned into two smoke-like claws, as if in the void two sharp claws stretched out from the surging black fog. He actually used this kind of method to forcefully break the array. A cold voice, under the vast profound waves and various kinds of energy fluctuations, was extremely clear to the ear. That voice was cold and emotionless, but one could faintly hear the astonishment in it. This kind of method, which way? With Diamo Xian's help, Yiqing Luo regained her consciousness slightly and heard Zhu Wuxian's astonished words. Yiqing Luo frowned as she struggled to open her eyes. Adjusting the position of her head in Diamo Xian's arms, she glanced sideways and followed the sound. The sky was filled with energy fluctuations. It was the power of flames sealed by the divine emperor. It was Diamo Xian's dazzling profound energy. It was the thick, dark energy that surrounded Huang Wuyo. The three energies intertwined with each other, forming vortex-like holes one after another. It spread throughout the entire space. In Huang Wuyo's direction, there was a tall body hovering in the air. His body was gripped by two smoke-like claws, his limbs wide open as he faced Huang Wuyo. That body's back was facing Yiqing Luo. She could also clearly see, on his blood-stained back, there was a strange totem drawn on it that was giving off wisps of mysterious energy. It also made the totem look really devilish. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted. "Gu Jingyu?" Diamo Xian's thin lips pursed slightly as his wide palm covered the young girl's eyes. His voice was deep. "It's too late, don't look." What he said was basically a fact that had already been set in stone. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped fiercely as it sunk. It's too late? What did that mean? Which meant Gu Jingyu he couldn't be saved. Chapter 5275. Even Diamo Xian was at his wit's end? Yiqing Luo's pink lips moved as she wanted to say something. But when the words reached his mouth, he couldn't spit out a single word. His throat was dry and hoarse. What should she say? What could he say? If Diamo Xian could save her, he would do his best to save her. Diamo Xian had already said that it was too late. Then there was really no other way. Bang, rumble. A deafening explosion and the sound of something collapsing echoed in the space. Nestled in Diamo Xian's arms, Yiqing Luo could feel the earth shaking and the mountains swaying. Her eyes were sealed by Diamo Xian and she could not see anything. He could only rely on sound to sense his surroundings. Under the protection of Diamo Xian's aura, Yiqing Luo could only faintly sense that the fluctuation in the air seemed to have increased by a lot. It was as if countless forces were contending against each other. However, he sensed it carefully. But he couldn't feel anything. It felt like a long time had passed, but it also felt like a blink of an eye. When Diamo Xian's slender hand moved away from Yiqing Luo's eyes, the first thing Yiqing Luo did was to look towards the direction of Huang Wuyo. The surging and twisting flames were constantly intertwining. The person who was supposed to be in the flames had already disappeared. Yes, Huang Wuyo had disappeared. Yiqing Luo swiftly searched the surroundings. He did not find any trace of Huang Wuyo. Even the creepy and cold mysterious Yin Qi had completely disappeared, and there was not even a trace of its aura left. It was as if Huang Wuyo had never existed. And Gu Jingyu had also disappeared. He ran away. Diamo Xian's voice was clear. You're injured, there's no need to chase after him for now. He can't run away. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as her little head leaned slightly on the man's shoulder, silently nodding her head. He ran away. This also meant that Huang Wuyo had broken through the array. Breaking the formation meant that Huang Wuyo's strength had been restored. Her current condition was not optimistic. If he hastily chased after Huang Wuyo, he might not even be able to catch up. Even if she managed to catch up to him, she had no way of dealing with him. Since Diamo Xian said it so confidently, he must have a way. She just had to trust him. However, Gu Jingyu, was he still alive? Perhaps he felt the girl's depressed mood. Diamo Xian's eyes drooped slightly, his deep obsidian-like pupils reflected the young lady's pale face, which was filled with a complicated expression. He tightened his grip on the girl and said in a low voice, "This is his fate and the fate he has chosen. Since he can't change it or stop it, he has to accept it." His large palm slowly clasped the girl's head. He made the young girl's gaze meet his. He was very clear about the meaning of his existence. Diamo Xian continued, "He was the vessel that Huang Wuyo had carefully selected." Container? Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly as she looked at the man's inky pupils. "What do you mean?" "A vessel just like how you are the divine phoenix profound heart jade's vessel. It is the best place to contain and nurture the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Similarly, Gu Jingyu's body should be the best vessel to support Huang Wuyo's body and soul." Diamo Xian explained, Huang Wuyo made use of Gu Jingyu as a vessel and made use of the sinister forbidden curse which was set up in the sealed grounds to carry out the soul transfer, which is one of the most sinister sorcery in the ancient times, soul transfer secret art. Soul transfer secret art. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5276. When Yiqing Luo heard this name, her heart thumped hard. From the name alone, Yiqing Luo could roughly imagine what the soul transfer secret art was. As expected, from Diamo Xian's mouth, he combined his own conjecture. From the very beginning, Gu Jingyu was the vessel that Huang Wuyo had chosen. This vessel could be said to be Huang Wuyo's escape route. If everything went according to Huang Wuyo's plan, if he could come out of the seal unscathed, Gu Jingyu was the catalyst to unlock the seal. If there were any sudden accidents when breaking the seal, he would not be able to escape. Huang Wuyo could even become a vessel to carry Huang Wuyo's soul and strength. In other words, Gu Jingyu was no longer Gu Jingyu. It was Huang Wuyo. It was no wonder that Huang Wuyo's divine sense could directly attach itself to Gu Jingyu's body and exchange blows with her. It was also because of Gu Jingyu's special physique that he was compatible with Huang Wuyo's soul. That was why Huang Wuyo's doppelganger had gone to the Nirvana realm to become Gu Jingyu's master and gain his trust. He had also successfully brainwashed Gu Jingyu into becoming one of his chess pieces. For Huang Wuyo, Yiqing Luo was an accident in his plan. This accident had not only ruined his plans again and again, but it had also ruined his plans. It even made the chess pieces that he had painstakingly cultivated start to have rebellious thoughts. If not for Gu Jingyu's usefulness, it was impossible for Huang Wuyo to allow Gu Jingyu to live until now. From Diamo Xian's mouth, Yiqing Luo knew that the current Huang Wuyo was nothing to be afraid of. Right from the start, Huang Wuyo had only wanted to obtain Yiqing Luo's divine phoenix profound heart jade and obtain the God Emperor's inheritance, making Yiqing Luo his tool. As for him, he used 10,000 years to turn the sealed land into a place of extreme negative energy. Then he set up the heavenly Een bloodlust art in the land of extreme Een to absorb the profound practitioner's energy and pour it into their souls, strengthening their souls. Then, at the most opportune moment, breaking the seal and gaining a new life. As for this freshman, he was the strongest at his peak, revered, carefree. This was Huang Wuyo's original plan. But everything had been thrown into chaos. Yiqing Luo's appearance was out of Huang Wuyo's expectations, but it was also within his expectations. He wanted to be reborn as he had been in his prime. Yiqing Luo was indeed the key. What he didn't expect was, after Yiqing Luo inherited the Divine Emperor's inheritance, there would be such an earth-shattering change. Furthermore, she could freely control the Azure Dew bracelet and the Azure Dew divine weapon that Fenggu had left behind. This had obviously become Yiqing Luo's assistance. The most unexpected thing was, Yiqing Luo would use such a despicable method like poison. As a result, his soul and strength were all corroded by the poison, which also gave Yiqing Luo a chance to invade. Yiqing Luo discovered the crux of the God Emperor's seal. He also knew that the stone tablet was closely related to his seal. This had also disrupted Huang Wuyo's initial plan. Huang Wuyo could only choose to give up. Taking a step back, he only wanted to use Linglong and Gu Jingyu to forcefully break the seal. The consequences of breaking the seal, his spiritual energy would be severely damaged. Even if he broke the seal and left it, with his strength he could probably only maintain 70% of his power. Although 70% of his strength was enough for him to rule the world. However, under such circumstances, he was forced to break out of the seal in such a pathetic manner by his daughter, whom he had never taken a liking to. It really made Huang Wuyo feel that he had lost all his face. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5277. But everything was still the opposite of what Huang Wuyo had expected. If Yiqing Luo's appearance made his plan fail, then Dmo Xian's appearance made him completely lose all his sovereignty. In the end, he fled in panic in such a way. Yiqing Luo laid in Dmo Xian's arms and raised her head slightly, looking at the man's clean and beautiful chin. Her voice was soft. So, the current Huang Wuyo broke the divine phoenix seal in a way that injured the enemy by 1,000 and himself by 800, right? Dmo Xian responded with an N. Yiqing Luo stuffed her little head into his arms again. Then the consequence of this is, the current Huang Wuyo is seriously injured. Don't think about it. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped, his slender fingers held her chin, his deep black eyes were filled with seriousness and solemnity. Your injury is not light now. The man's tone was very gloomy, apparently still angry. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, revealing an obedient and harmless smile. Her voice continued to be soft. I know, in order not to let you worry, I will be obedient. Am I not worried enough? Dmo Xian sneered, thinking of Yiqing Luo's sudden disappearance. Even the connection between the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring could not detect Yiqing Luo's existence. It was as if she had disappeared from this world. Dmo Xian couldn't recall how he felt when there was no news of Yiqing Luo. Almost. He wanted to turn the world upside down, destroy the heaven and earth, and he had to find Yiqing Luo. Thinking of this, Dmo Xian shut his eyes hard and pulled the young lady into his arms. He could feel that the girl was really by his side. That uneasy feeling in his heart finally subsided slightly. Yiqing Luo could naturally feel the change in the man's emotions, even if she didn't see it with her own eyes. Yiqing Luo also knew, when she was in the God Emperor's sealed space. What kind of feelings did Dmo Xian have? Her expression softened, stretched out her hands and wrapped them around his firm waist. I'm sorry I made you worry. The man didn't say a word, only increasing the strength of the hands holding her. Yiqing Luo's little hand grabbed his collar. There won't be a next time. The man's large palm held her little hand. Can there be no next time? Yiqing Luo nodded hard. Absolutely, I promise. The young girl blinked her charming eyes. Her long eyelashes were thick like the wings of a butterfly. Her pupils, which seemed to have been washed by green water, were bright and resplendent, reflecting his shadow. Her bright red lips curled up slightly in an attempt to please him. She looked obedient and cute. Dmo Xian's suppressed rage and all his viciousness softened at this moment. How could he bear to be angry at his little Luo heir? In the end, he could only sigh and press the young girl into his arms. For the time being, I'll believe you this once. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she used her face to rub against his chest. Indeed, she was not in a hurry to look for Huang Wuyo. She wanted to take advantage of his weakness to take his life. Firstly, it was to reassure Diamo Xian. Secondly, the current Huang Wuyo, under the circumstances of forcefully breaking the seal, could only maintain 50% of his previous strength, which was already the limit. Moreover, Huang Wuyo's injuries were much more serious than hers. In particular, there were all sorts of poisons in her body. It was enough for Huang Wuyo to suffer. She had merely overexerted her strength. It wouldn't be too late to look for Huang Wuyo after she had recuperated for a day. Huang Wuyo was surrounded by enemies and had no helpers. But she had Diamo Xian. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. From now on, he would never appear in front of her again. She had even said that she would help Old Man Song become a human again. He even said that he wanted Old Man Song to become a real person again. But now, Old Man Song went back on his word. He didn't wait for her. Suddenly, a hand grasped her slender wrist. The man's slender fingers lightly pressed against the azure dew bracelet. His other arm wrapped around the girl's waist and pulled her into his embrace. What's wrong? Why are you frowning? The man stroked the azure dew bracelet and lifted the young girl's wrist, his gaze falling on the blossoming petals of the cherry blossoms. Yiqing Luo shook her head and leaned her head into his embrace. Trying to hide it from me? Diamo Xian slightly bent down and looked her in the eyes. The man's slender hand moved from her wrist to her face and pressed against her lower jaw, forcing her face to face with him. 7th Young Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. 7th Young Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Chapter 5279. The girl's resplendent eyes reflected the man's peerlessly handsome face. The man's thin lips spread open, like a blooming flower, making one unable to shift their gaze. Even though she often saw this face and rubbed it up close, Yiqing Luo's heart still couldn't help but beat faster. Her eyelashes blinked faster, wanting to look away, but her head was held in place by the man's fingers. Diamo Xian opened his mouth again. I know you're thinking of Old Man Song. The azure dew bracelet's aura was different from before. Ever since he knew of Old Man Song's existence, Old Man Song had never deliberately concealed his aura in front of him. And now, he could no longer sense the spirituality of the spiritual body. Combined with the girl's pained expression when she looked at the azure dew bracelet, Diamo Xian already understood what had happened. When the 3 words Old Man Song came out of her mouth, the girl's pupils visibly dilated. His eyelashes, which were trembling non-stop, also stopped. Only for a moment the girl lowered her eyes, concealing the grief in her eyes. Her reaction gave Diamo Xian the most direct answer. Diamo Xian leaned over again and pulled her wrist with the azure dew bracelet in front of her, his voice low. Can't you be a bit more direct and ask me? Who told you that Old Man Song can't come back? Diamo Xian's words were like a touch of water in a dry desert, giving Yiqing Luo hope. The girl's charming eyes suddenly brightened, filled with shock and a bit of careful ecstasy, looking towards Diamo Xian. She didn't open her mouth. But the urgency in her gaze was obviously asking him, really? Old Man Song can really come back? Diamo Xian's slender hand pinched her exquisite face. A trace of doting helplessness floated in between his brows. Aren't you usually very smart? You can understand everything with a little bit. How come now you're stupid? After he was done pinching her face, he raised his hand and knocked on her little head. Use your brain and think about it. The man then held her wrist again. On her fair, jade-like skin, the azure dew bracelet, which was like a blooming cherry blossom, appeared extremely beautiful. Every petal was like a blossoming flame, flowing with wisps of enchanting red light. Old Song is the guardian spirit of the azure dew bracelet. There is an indispensable bond between artifact spirits and divine artifacts. If Old Man Song really did disappear from this world, it's impossible that the azure dew bracelet wouldn't be affected. Diamo Xian reminded. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her bright eyes overflowed with bits of brilliance. She lowered her eyes and stared at the water on her wrist. Her throat suddenly tightened. When Old Man Zitsong disappeared in front of her eyes for her, her mind was in a mess. He had never thought about this. Now with Diamo Xian's reminder, Yiqing Luo abruptly woke up. Right, Old Man Song was the spirit of the azure dew bracelet. If Old Man Song was truly injured at that time, no matter how well Old Man Song protected the azure dew bracelet, the Azure Dew bracelet would definitely be affected. But the Azure Dew bracelet was fine. In other words, Old Man Song could still be alive. But in that kind of situation, the things that Old Man Song did, even you could misunderstand, presumably, it should be an extremely dangerous and extremely harmful thing. Dmo Xian gently held her hand in his broad palm. His arm increased the strength of holding her slender waist, giving the young lady a warm and solid sense of security. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love, everyone please collect it. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love, hit me. Chapter 5280. Although Old Man Song should still be alive in this world, I'm afraid his situation is not optimistic. Dmo Xian's mellow voice whispered into her ear, you'd better be mentally prepared. Yi Qing Luo's heartstrings, which had just relaxed earlier, were raised once again. She pursed her lips, clenched the man's shirt and said, I understand your concerns. She laughed, I don't ask for much. As long as I can confirm that Old Man Song will have a chance to return to my side, this is the best result. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, she would definitely do everything she could to find Old Man Song. Suddenly Yi Qing Luo seemed to have thought of something as she abruptly raised her head, her eyes leaping with joy. That's right, Ah Xian. Wasn't Old Man Song's body still in the Earth domain? As long as I use the Azure Water artifact to help him revive, then he can. Dmo Xian stroked her little head and saw that the young lady's face had finally revealed a smile. Her eyes had also regained its vigor and her thoughts had finally changed accordingly. His eyes that were as deep as ink overflowed with gentleness. Yes. With hope came motivation. After Dmo Xian confirmed several times that Yi Qing Luo's body had indeed completely recovered to how it was before he allowed her to walk out of the Devil Hall's courtyard. Previously, the Devil Territory had attracted people from various forces because of the appearance of the Divine Emperor's tomb and the seizure of the Divine Emperor's divine weapon. Then, because of Huang Wuyo's God Emperor seal, there was an uproar, causing countless factions to rush to the demon domain. Originally, because the demonic domain was located in the land of extreme negative energy and was filled with baleful aura, no one dared to set foot in it. Now it was overcrowded. The Demon Hall Master had no way to stop it. How could he stop it? This group of profounders from the various powers had rushed over madly because they'd sensed danger from the Devil Territory. On top of that, there were also inexplicable rumors spreading all over the world. They were all discussing that a demon god had descended from the demon domain and was about to invade the various worlds. Regardless of whether the rumors were true or not, the chaos in the demon domain was real. Out of the protection of his own interface and to avoid harming his own interests. Hence, all the great clans sent their own people to the demon domain to investigate. Of course, the second reason was naturally because there was profit to be made. The tomb of the former divine emperor was found sealed in the demon domain. Along with the emergence of the graveyard were the divine artifacts used by countless former divine emperors and divine artifacts from 10,000 years ago, as burial objects. How much could one's strength be enhanced by simply obtaining one of them? How much could the strength of an entire family be enhanced? Then there was the so-called demon god's descent into the world. The demon god's rampage greatly affected the entire infernal realm. This kind of unusual movement, how could it not attract the attention of the major forces and people from all walks of life? Because of that, when Yi Qing Luo walked out of the courtyard, she saw several familiar figures. The first to bear the brunt were the people of the Feng family. Feng family's patriarch quickly stepped forward and sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe. Little Luo, what do you think? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Feng Liqiong and Granny Feng followed behind him. Although Feng Liqiong didn't say a word, but Yi Qing Luo could tell from his arrogant face that he was worried. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she smiled and shook her head. If something happens to me, Ah Xian will not let me get down. Feng family's patriarch naturally knew how much Dmo Xian valued Yi Qing Luo. The grandfather and granddaughter spoke a few more sentences and after confirming that Yi Qing Luo was fine, Feng family's patriarch then opened his mouth hesitantly. You saw that demon god? Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5281. Devil God? This unfamiliar title made Yi Qing Luo slightly stunned. Feng family's patriarch pursed his lips as his expression changed. It's the man who was sealed by little Gu. Huang Wuyo? Devil God? How did Huang Wuyo get the title of Devil God? Dmo Shen explained the recent rumors in her ear. The devil domain was in turmoil and the person who was sealed by the former god emperor broke the seal. After all, this was the devil domain's territory. Naturally, the crowd gave Huang Wuyo a title. Devil God. It sounded like it was very powerful. Thinking of Huang Wuyo, Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. He has already left the god emperor's seal. Although they already knew this result. Hearing Yiqing Luo's admission, Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong's expression changed slightly. Feng family's patriarch's brows knitted tightly as his expression was complicated. That man? If he breaks the seal, I'm afraid the first thing he will do is to seek revenge on the Feng family. Initially, it was Feng Gu who exhausted his energy and even sacrificed his life to seal him. And now, Feng Gu had disappeared from this world. Who else could restrain Huang Wuyo? Qing Luo? No. They had already lost Feng Gu. They absolutely could not lose Yiqing Luo again. Yiqing Luo naturally understood what her grandfather was thinking. Her long and narrow eyes stared at Feng family's patriarch solemnly. Her tone was gentle, but with a convincing firmness. The current him, I'm afraid he can only barely protect himself. He doesn't have the energy to seek revenge on the Feng family. Huang Wuyo running to the Feng family at this time, wasn't that throwing himself into a trap? Feng family's patriarch's brows didn't relax because of this. His tone was still solemn. Be careful, he has too many ancient evil arts on him. I'm worried. He will hurt you. I have something he wants on me. Yiqing Luo comforted. Before he gets what he wants, he won't do anything to me. The young lady paused for a moment as she pulled the peerless man beside her, her pink lips hooked. Moreover, with Xian by my side, he won't dare to act rashly. Patriarch Feng's vision shifted onto Dmo Xian. After a moment of silence, he sighed softly and said, "This is your fate. From the moment you were born, this fate was already set in stone. This ill-fated fate started because of you and it will also end because of you. Even if I want to stop it, I can't stop the arrangements of fate." Yiqing Luo's birth was a scheme. If he wanted to escape his control, he had to be able to do it. His life was his to decide, not anyone else's. No matter how worried he was, no matter how much he wanted to protect his granddaughter. He could protect her for a while, but he could not protect her forever. Furthermore, this ill-fated relationship had to come to an end. Thinking of all the things that happened recently, Feng clan master closed his eyes tiredly. Grandfather, mother is willing to believe in me and choose me. This means that I definitely have the ability to fulfill mother's last wish. The young girl's soft little hand covered the Feng family patriarch's slightly rough hand. Her tone was gentle, but it was filled with determination. I am the successor that the Divine Phoenix has recognized, and I am the current Divine Phoenix Emperor. Grandfather should believe in my abilities. She lightly patted Feng clan master's hand. 10,000 years ago, that incredible Huang Wuyo who even mother couldn't gain any advantage in his hands. But now he was forced by me to the point of running away like a rat with its tail between its legs. Her lips curled upwards as beautiful as a flower. So, what kind of waves can he still stir up now? Feng clan master looked at the face in front of him, which was exactly the same as Feng Ji's. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5282. But the expression on this face was much more lively than Feng Ji's. Feng Gu was undoubtedly powerful. However, the burden on her shoulders made it impossible for her to relax. Even in front of Huang Wuyo. The smile on Feng Ji's face was not wholeheartedly devoted. But Yiqing Luo was different. Yiqing Luo was confident and arrogant. Her every action and expression made one involuntarily believe in her. This was something that had never been seen on Feng Gu. Yiqing Luo and Feng Gu were alike. But not alike. Feng family patriarch looked at the young lady's bright and unrestrained expression, and after a long time, the tightened thread in his heart suddenly relaxed. As though he had thought something through. He smiled. All right, grandfather believes you. This was his granddaughter, Feng Ji's daughter, the new divine phoenix of God realm. He should believe in her, believe in Feng Gu, believe in divine phoenix's recognition. The grandfather and granddaughter looked at each other with a smile. Feng Liqiong, who was standing by the side, looked at Yiqing Luo unnaturally and spoke in a tsundere tone. Be careful, don't let us worry. Saying that, she turned her head away. Looking at Feng Liqiong's blushing face and that unnatural expression, Yiqing Luo's slender eyes curved. Got it, uncle. She paused and suddenly thought of something as she immediately asked, "Oh yes, uncle, is Cece all right?" In the God Emperor's sealed space, Feng Shi was also sucked into the space because of Linglong. Later on, she was stimulated to activate the Divine Phoenix's bloodline. Although later on, she was saved by someone. But the situation was not optimistic. Speaking of Feng Shi, Feng Liqiong's expression turned slightly cold. His brows furrowed tightly. Yiqing Luo noticed the change in his expression. "Uncle, has Cece not woken up yet? I'll go take a look at him." "He has woken up, but..." Feng family patriarch spoke on behalf of Feng Liqiong as he sighed. "But Cece might have to leave the Feng family." "Leave the Feng family?" Yiqing Luo asked. "Why?" Feng family patriarch took a look at Feng Liqiong, and seeing that he had no intention to speak, he continued. "Cece's mother is here." Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated when she heard that. The image of the white-robed figure who had appeared after Feng Shi had activated her Divine Emperor bloodline in the sealed space of the Divine Emperor suddenly appeared in his mind. Was that woman Feng Shi's mother? She had rushed to the Divine Emperor's sealed space to save Feng Shi? The situation was urgent. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't differentiate who that lady was. He could only guess. That woman's strength should not be weak, at least above the Feng family. Otherwise, they would not have been able to reach the seal of the Divine Phoenix unscathed and rescue Feng Shi. However, it was that woman who had left Feng Shi in the Feng family. Now he had suddenly appeared. Did he want to take Feng Shi away? Did she suddenly have the so-called motherly love, or did she have other intentions? Perhaps guessing what Yiqing Luo was thinking about, Feng family's matriarch spoke out. "It's because we didn't protect little Shi properly, which caused little Shi to fall into such a dangerous situation, almost losing her life." He sighed softly. If she had not appeared in time to save little Shi, I'm afraid. As Feng clan master spoke to this point, he couldn't continue to speak. Yiqing Luo also got the gist of it. That woman was blaming them for not protecting Feng Shi properly. So now she wanted to take Feng Shi away. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5283. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. "I'll go take a look." Feng Shi was placed in the palace where Feng Liqiong and Feng Qiong lived, which was next door to Yiqing Luo. When Yiqing Luo followed behind Feng Qiong, the man next to her suddenly hooked her finger. The man's slender finger joints were distinct. His slightly curved finger hooked on the young girl's slender fingertip. Yiqing Luo caught hold of his fingers as she glanced sideways at him in puzzlement, using her eyes to inquire, "What's the matter?" The two of them walked side by side, and their steps were surprisingly consistent. The breeze blew a few strands of the man's black hair from time to time, which brushed past the young girl's face, giving her a slight itchy feeling. The man's handsome face, when he looked at her from the side, looked even more handsome and peerless. "Later on, if we see anyone," the man lowered his voice and whispered, "don't be too surprised." Yiqing Luo blinked her long eyelashes. What did this sentence mean? Very soon Yiqing Luo understood the meaning of Dmo Xian's words. When she walked into Feng Shi's room and saw the slender and graceful figure sitting by the bed, she was instantly dumbfounded. She blinked and rubbed her eyes again. The fairy-like woman in a flowing white dress was really sitting there. Hearing the sound behind her, the woman stood up slowly. The white gauze on her was like a green smoke or a flowing cloud, slowly falling down. She slowly turned her head and looked behind her. And that familiar face was revealed in front of Yiqing Luo. Bai Su. Who else could the person in front of her be but Bai Su? Bai Su was the woman who cooperated with Dmo Xian previously. Dmo Xian was looking for the profound flame Tianshu diagram in the Nirvana realm, while she was stationed in the dark. She was also the biological sister of the teacher named Bai Mei, who had a crush on Dmo Xian in Nirvana realm's gods class, who wanted to be an old cow eating the cradle. Yiqing Luo knew that Bai Su's identity was very mysterious. Probably as mysterious as Dmo Xian. The last time she saw Bai Su, she was still in a spiritual state. Yiqing Luo had never thought Bai Su was actually Feng Shi's mother. Feng Shi's mother was Bai Su? No wonder Dmo Xian had to remind her of that before they came. But even if Dmo Xian had reminded him, seeing Bai Su at this time, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but be surprised. Hearing the noise at the door, Bai Su turned around immediately. His gaze first fell on Feng Liqiong. Her beautiful face instantly darkened. She was just about to yell at Feng Liqiong to get out of the room and out of her sight. Suddenly she heard a clear and melodious little voice calling her name. Bai Su's beautiful eyes moved slightly as she looked towards the direction of the voice. When she saw that it was Yi Qing Luo, the expression on her face eased slightly. Miss Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. The face in front of him was indeed Bai Su's. However, the Bai Su in front of her was not in her previous spiritual state. She was standing in front of her in her human form. Bai Su saw the astonishment on the girl's face. Bai Su raised her lips and revealed her first smile since she appeared in the Feng residence. This smile made her elegant and refined face look like a flower in full bloom, which made people unable to take their eyes off her. She took the initiative to say, "I am Feng Shi's biological mother, Bai Su." Yi Qing Luo, it was one thing to know. Hearing her admit it, it was inevitable that she was shocked. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5284. Feng family master on the side looked at the interaction between the two and seemed to react. Little Luo, you and this Miss Bai know each other? This was the first time he met Bai Su. When he found out that Bai Su was Feng Shi's biological mother, he confirmed that Bai Su was Feng Shi's biological mother after confirming the details and the bloodline between Bai Su and Feng Shi. Until now, Feng clan master hasn't recovered from this change. Now he saw that Bai Su and Yi Qing Luo knew each other. He was increasingly curious about Bai Su's identity. On the other hand, he was looking forward to it. If Xiao Luo and Xiao Shi's biological mother knew each other, could she help to persuade Bai Su to let Feng Shi stay in the Feng residence? Or, both mother and son could stay. Lord Feng's motive was too obvious. He was a little cautious when he spoke. Bai Su interrupted Lord Feng's fantasy and said calmly, "Lord Feng, I will not let Cici stay in the Feng residence. You don't have enough ability to protect Cici." There wasn't much aggression in her tone. She was just expressing her thoughts calmly. Feng Liqiong frowned and said coldly, "Xiao Shi is also my child." "Was you?" Just as he was about to speak, he caught a glimpse of the little person lying on the bed, and the words that were about to come out of his mouth stopped in his throat. He pursed his lips and continued, "We've been taking care of little Shi for so many years, especially my father. The relationship between grandfather and grandson can't be broken so easily. You've not only hurt my father and I by forcefully separating little Shi from us, but also little Shi. This is the consequence of leaving Cici in your care." Compared to Feng Liqiong, Bai Su was much calmer. Even the expression on her face did not change much. Now that Cici's divine phoenix bloodline has been activated, there will be more and more people coveting him. Do you think that you can protect Cici with just the two of you? Feng Liqiong's face stiffened. Lord Feng moved his lips but didn't know what to say. Bai Su looked indifferent and continued to speak calmly, "Cici can only get the best protection if he stays by my side. I will not hand him over to you." You. Feng Liqiong was a straight man, but when she heard Bai Su's last sentence, her face turned livid, and she opened her mouth to refute. Yi Qing Luo first pressed on Feng Liqiong's hand and interrupted his words, "All right, let me see how Cici is now." After that, she pushed Feng Liqiong to Patriarch Feng and walked to Bai Su. Then he took Bai Su's hand and walked to the bedside. Feng Liqiong still wanted to say something, but she was stopped by Patriarch Feng. Patriarch Feng shook his head at her, signaling her not to speak again. Bai Su was very determined. This time, Feng Shi's injury was indeed due to their negligence. It was reasonable for Bai Su to vent her anger on them. If they continued to talk about this topic, they would probably part on bad terms again. However, something small fell here. Perhaps there would be a turn for the better. Yi Qing Luo took Bai Su and walked to Feng Shi's bedside. She lowered her eyes and looked at the little man on the bed. His face was pale and his eyes were tightly shut. Her heart ached as she sat down beside him and reached out to touch his forehead. Feng Shi must have just taken the medicine and fallen asleep again. At this moment, his brows were slightly furrowed. Obviously he was still not feeling well, which made him very uncomfortable. Yi Qing Luo gently picked up his wrist and checked his pulse. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5285. Feng Shi's internal injuries weren't too serious after recuperation. But because of the divine phoenix bloodline, her small body couldn't bear too much energy, which was beyond what her body could bear, which led to a huge loss of energy. Her other external and internal injuries were all treated. But, She still had to recuperate for a period of time before she could fully recover. Yiqing Luo put Feng Shi's hand under the quilt and looked at Bai Su. I'm sorry, the main reason why Cici became like this is because of me, because she had brought Linglong back to the Feng family, which led to Feng Shi being brought into the Divine Emperor's seal because she chased after Linglong, which was why she almost lost her life in the hands of Huang Wuyo. After all, because of her. I don't blame you or anyone else. Bai Su shook her head. When she looked at Feng Shi, a gentle expression that only a mother could have appeared on that incomparably beautiful face. She reached out and gently stroked Feng Shi's hair on her forehead, saying in a gentle voice, I chose to give birth to Cici. I had already guessed this would happen. I just didn't expect it to be so soon. Already knew Huang Wuyo would hurt Feng Shi? Wait a minute. Yiqing Luo suddenly seemed to have thought of something and her expression froze. She looked sideways at Bai Su. Bai Su smiled warmly at her. When their eyes met, she found the answer in each other's eyes. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Let's talk outside. She glanced at Feng Shi, then stood up and walked towards the door. Bai Su didn't refuse. She tucked Feng Shi in and followed Yiqing Luo out of the door. When she passed by Feng Liqiong and the Feng family's patriarch, she glanced at them indifferently but didn't say anything and walked straight out of the door. This was also the intention to let them take care of Feng Shi for the time being. Outside the door, Yiqing Luo was waiting not far away. Bai Su walked over slowly, her white dress fluttering in the wind. In the magical style of the Devil Palace, she looked like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She walked to Yiqing Luo's side. The two walked side by side aimlessly. When they were more than 10 meters away from the palace, Yiqing Luo finally opened her mouth. You, Oolong knew that Feng Shi would be the successor to the throne after me? Bai Su's lips curled up into a beautiful smile, but there was a hint of helplessness in it. Yes, I already knew it when I was pregnant with him. I also know that once I give birth to him, his life will always be accompanied by danger. But you still gave birth to him. Yiqing Luo thought that if it was her, she would make the same choice as Bai Su. Even if Bai Su did not love Feng Liqiong. Even though Bai Su knew that giving birth to this child meant that she might lose her life. But this was also her child. The child of her flesh and blood. How could she bear to give up? Back then when I was pregnant with Cici, I was wholeheartedly preparing for Cici's future. I wanted to use my power to seal the Divine Phoenix's bloodline in Cici's body. I hoped that he could become an ordinary person. So, after giving birth to Cici, I sought the method that the former Divine Emperor used to seal you, to seal Cici like you did in the past. But I didn't have the ability to send Cici to another realm to preserve the vitality of his soul. I could only let him maintain his life forever in the form of a baby, and I searched everywhere for the method to seal the Divine Phoenix's bloodline. Until I was in the Nirvana realm, I heard the news of the Xian Yen Tianshu diagram. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5286. The Profound Flames Dubhe diagram was the map to Fenggu graveyard. It was the key to opening it. Bai Su wanted to find the map and enter Feng Ji's tomb to find out how to seal the Divine Phoenix bloodline in Feng Shi. For so many years, Bai Su had been looking for ways to protect Feng Shi. It was also for this reason that she left Feng Shi in the Feng family's care. But Bai Su didn't expect that. Feng Shi finally stimulated the Divine Phoenix bloodline in front of Huang Wuyo. This also meant that Huang Wuyo's target would be Feng Shi. She didn't believe that the Feng family had enough power to protect Feng Shi. She only believed in herself. So she wanted to take Feng Shi away from Huang Wuyo. Yiqing Luo understood Bai Su's feelings. However, even until now, Yiqing Luo was still a little surprised that Bai Su was Feng Shi's mother and her uncle's woman. Of course, even though the two of them had that one night, it was all for other reasons than love. But it was undeniable that there was a period between Bai Su and her uncle. After all, the two of them had Feng Shi to tie them down. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways as she looked at the lady beside her. Her brows were slightly drooped, her gorgeous red lips were slightly pursed and her pretty brows were slightly knitted. She was obviously distressed. But when she mentioned Feng Shi, Bai Su's beautiful face showed a little gentleness. That was maternal gentleness. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. Even though Feng Shi and Bai Su had never interacted with each other. But the relationship of blood and kinship gave them a natural sense of affinity. Yiqing Luo recalled that when she was in Feng Shi's room earlier, Bai Su sat by Feng Shi's bedside and that gentle look made her heart soften. Qing Luo. Suddenly Baisu turned her head and met Yiqing Luo's eyes. She called out Yiqing Luo's name with a solemn expression. Yiqing Luo was stunned, but she didn't feel embarrassed about being caught peeping. She answered, "What's wrong? You think Cici will be willing to leave with me?" Baisu's tone was obviously perturbed when she asked this question. This was the first time for Yiqing Luo to see Baisu, who had always been gorgeous and flamboyant, showing such an expression. Just as Yiqing Luo was still in a daze and didn't reply, Baisu continued nervously, "I never participated in his past life." Just now, Feng Liqiong was worried about Cici's unfinished words. "I know what he wanted to say. He wants to say that I was the one who left Cici in the Feng manor. No matter what the reason is, the person who left Cici behind is me." At this point, Baisu's voice trembled a little. She slowly turned her head and lowered her eyes to hide the pain in them. "If Cici is unwilling to forgive me, and is unwilling to leave with me, what should I do?" Yiqing Luo could tell that Baisu's heart was full of complexity and apprehension. She really loved Feng Shi. He did not want to force Feng Shi, nor did he want to force her to make any choice. That was why she felt so conflicted and uncomfortable. Yiqing Luo's brows gradually turned gentle. She reached out and held the back of Baisu's cold hand. She comforted her, "I feel that Cici has never blamed you." The young girl's voice was soft, with a special reassuring power. Baisu's breathing gradually calmed down. Then she heard the young girl say softly, "If you want to take Cici away, he will definitely go with you." Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5287. Baisu suddenly raised her head and looked at Yiqing Luo in surprise. Perhaps she was surprised that Yiqing Luo was so sure. Or perhaps she was surprised that Yiqing Luo, as a member of the Feng family, would not stand on her side and let her take Feng Shi away. But Yiqing Luo looked in the direction of Feng Shi's room and said in a calm voice, as if she was stating a fact, "Cici will leave with you, but he may not be happy for a long time." Baisu's pupils contracted a little. After that, she lowered her eyes and pursed her red lips. She understood what Yiqing Luo meant. She couldn't refute her words. Indeed, Feng Shi might leave with her because she was his mother. However, it was impossible for Feng Shi to forget about the Feng family and the He family. Feng Shi had grown up in the Feng family since she could remember. There must be an indelible relationship between her and the Feng family. Even if Feng Shi had gotten used to living with her in the future. But the Feng family was still in Feng Shi's heart. Perhaps she would reminisce about them in a place where she couldn't see in the dead of night. Baisu was silent and didn't know what to say. Yiqing Luo gave a slight smile as her fair little hand held onto her soft hand. "Actually, why don't you consider staying in the Feng family?" The young girl's voice was soft and gentle, like a feather, gently stroking Baisu's heart, which was already filled with ripples. Baisu's eyelashes trembled slightly. Just like her heart at this moment, it also trembled. Ripples spread and splashed. That feather tickled a certain part of his body, making him feel a little itchy. Consider, stay in the Feng family? That was indeed the best way. She could stay by Feng Shi's side, accompany her, take care of her and protect her. And it could also save Feng Shi from the pain of being separated from her family. But what identity should she use to stay in the Feng family? How should she face the Feng family? How should she face Feng Liqiong? She couldn't get along with them calmly. The young girl seemed to have seen through her thoughts from the expression on her face. She slightly increased the strength of the hand that held her. Yiqing Luo smiled and gently touched Baisu's palm with her slender fingertips. She smiled and said, "You're a pure and innocent woman, yet you've been defiled by my little uncle. It's my little uncle who has let you down. You also gave birth to such a lovely and well-behaved child for our Feng family. This is also our entire Feng family's shame to you. Therefore you are naturally qualified to live in the Feng mansion. Stay here as Feng Shi's mother." Baisu raised her eyes slightly and met the girl's smiling eyes. She pursed her lips and said in a low voice, "I'll think about it." Yiqing Luo patted the back of her hand. Facing the current Baisu, she didn't feel like she was facing a senior who was much older than her. Instead, she comforted her like a friend. "Don't give yourself too much pressure, you just need to remember one thing. You're in the Phoenix Manor for Cici. That's enough." Of course, Yiqing Luo hoped that Baisu could stay. In this way, Feng Shi could also stay in the Feng family. After all, the Feng family's patriarch was old. Feng Shi's departure would definitely have a great impact on the Feng family's patriarch. Moreover, she did have her own selfish motives. Bai Su's strength was similar to Dmo Xian's. If Bai Su stayed in the Feng family, even if Huang Wuyo wanted to secretly plot something, at least Bai Su could protect him a little. Chapter 5288. With Bai Su around, she could also settle her own affairs with a peace of mind. Based on Huang Wuyo's dark rat temperament, it was absolutely impossible to give up on his plans and ambitions. He would definitely start from the people around her, making use of the people she cared about, threatening her to achieve his goal. So if Bai Su was in the Feng residence, the safety of the Feng family could basically be guaranteed. And there was one more point, which was the most important point. Yiqing Luo wanted to matchmake Bai Su as her aunt. After all, Bai Su and Feng Liqiong already had Feng Shi. Although this was a place that did not have a lot of restrictions on women like in the real history, it was a different world from the real history. But even in the 21st century, there would be a lot of rumors about a woman getting pregnant before marriage, not to mention here. Even if Bai Su didn't care. But Feng Shi was the eldest son of the divine phoenix Feng family, the future head of the Feng family and the chosen successor to the divine emperor. She would eventually stand in front of everyone and accept everyone's gaze. However, once Feng Shi's identity was criticized by others, she would not be able to control herself. Bai Su's reputation would be ruined. Even Feng Shi would be greatly affected. If it was possible, she hoped that Feng Liqiong and Bai Su could have a good ending. Of course, if both parties had no feelings. That was not something that could be forced. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she didn't say anything else or urged Bai Su to give an answer. Bai Su needed to think clearly about this kind of thing. The two of them kept silent as they walked forward. After about the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Bai Su suddenly stopped in her tracks and glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo's beautiful face. She sighed softly and said solemnly, "I will think about it." Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as she nodded with a smile. Considering meant that there was a chance. She only hoped that straight uncle of hers wouldn't be so reckless as to kill his own son's mother. Devil Domain, desolate land. The rolling hills were withered and lifeless. Even the surrounding air seemed to be condensed with thick yin qi, which was somewhat creepy. This was a desolate land which was second only to the Devil Domain's extreme negative energy, Mount Wu Ren. Mount Wu Ren. As the name suggested, it was a place where no one could step in. Throughout the year, not a single shadow could be seen. But right now, a dense cloud of yin energy could be vaguely seen amidst the withered and lifeless mountain range. The entire uninhabited mountain became even more gloomy and gloomy. It seemed to be shrouded in a deathly aura. At the foot of the uninhabited mountain, a group of about 17 or 18 people were looking up at the desolate mountain range. A beautiful woman followed the leader carefully and said in an exceptionally nervous voice, young lord, are you really going to enter the uninhabited mountain alone?" The leader of the group wore an ink-colored robe without the slightest ornament, making him seem extremely plain. However, the cloth and the patterns embroidered on the robe were clearly luxurious. Furthermore, the aura of that person was as cold as a 1,000-year-old glacier, capable of freezing the air in the surroundings. His unbound black hair hung loosely behind him, fluttering in the wind. His face that was as cold as cast was completely solemn, without the slightest fluctuation of emotion. The man didn't turn back as his gaze was fixated on Mount Wu Ren without blinking. His expression was neither happy nor sad. "Go back." "But young lord..." The 17 or 18 people behind him couldn't help but open their mouths to say something. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 5289. The man had already raised his hand and made a gesture to stop them. Those 17 to 18 people were helpless as they swallowed all the words they wanted to say. The illusory clan cannot be left without anyone. The man's voice was as calm as his expression. "You are the last hope of the illusory clan, live on." The woman behind and the man who was closest to him revealed a complicated expression. As though she couldn't hold it in any longer, the woman clenched her fists tightly as she said, "Young lord, you are the last hope of the illusory clan. If anything happens to you, where will you place the illusory clan and where will you place us?" They could even abandon the princess of the illusory clan for their young lord. But now young lord wanted to abandon them. Was there any possibility for their illusory clan to revive? The man's cold and emotionless expression was slightly moved after the woman finished her words. He glanced sideways and finally fixed his vision on the woman. but there was still no fluctuation of emotions in his eyes. Huan Luo, bring the people of the illusory clan and leave God realm. Find a place to live well. His voice, like the expression on his face, didn't fluctuate much. As for the revenge of the illusory clan, I believe Yiqing Luo will definitely be able to take revenge for the illusory clan. Huan Luo's voice choked as her beautiful little face turned extremely pale. Her little hands clenched tightly as her throat was a little dry. Has young lord already decided to abandon us? The man? Zhu Wuxian's eyes moved slightly as he swept past the 10 over illusory clan's people in front of him. He was also the last person left in the illusory clan. In the past, for me, every single day was for the sake of revenge. I have never been happy nor have I ever grumbled, because this is my destiny. But ever since I met that woman who could bring me warmth, everything is no longer the same. The reason for my survival has one more. The man's voice was very soft, and after he finished his words, he paused for a long time, as though he was deliberating over his next words, or as though he was thinking of that woman. Even that cold and emotionless face showed some gentleness. He even directly used I, and not this young lord. This was enough to tell. That young lady called Yiqing Luo, in his heart, what kind of important position did she hold? I don't want to make myself regret it. He stared at the desolate mountain range in front of him, his eyes as calm as still water. But on that pale and cold face, one could faintly see the ripples between his brows. I want to live for myself for once. Just once. The illusion clansmen were silent for a while, looking at the back view of the young master, who was covered in a cold aura but also exuded a sense of loneliness. They couldn't say a single word to stop him. They knew this the best. Their young master had suffered a lot to revive the illusory race. Their young master had been living for the illusory tribe since he was born, because he knew his mission. Their young master had never said anything against them. All this while, he had always kept his identity in mind and his goal in mind. Everyone's throat tightened, and in the end, it turned into a deep sigh. Huan Luo's lips moved, but she couldn't utter a single word. Zhu Wuxin slowly brushed away the hand on his wrist. His expression was calm, his tone indifferent. You can go back. Saying that, he lifted his feet and walked towards the uninhabited mountain. He had just taken 2 steps. He heard a melodious bell-like voice coming from his back with a hint of anger. Zhu Wuxin, stop right there. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5290. That voice echoed in the empty and desolate mountain range. The people of the illusory tribe looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a woman dressed in a light blue outfit striding toward them. The woman was tall, and her jet-black hair was tied behind her head, revealing her elegant and flamboyant face. She looked clean and neat with a heroic bearing. When Huan Luo saw that person, her face immediately lit up. Captain Su, quickly come and persuade Lord Young Master. If it's you, he will definitely listen to you. The woman did not reply. Her eyes were calm as she looked at Zhu Wuxin's figure. The corners of her mouth rose slightly. Zhu Wuxin, do you still want to hide from me? The woman walked toward Zhu Wuxin step by step. The people of the illusory tribe automatically made way for her. Obviously, the people of the illusory tribe were very familiar with this woman. What are you doing here? Zhu Wuxin glanced sideways at the woman behind him. Su Qingbing, you are the captain of the bloody mercenary group. You don't have the right to be willful. No. The woman's expression did not change. Her eyes were firm. I am no longer bound by the mercenary group. Zhu Wuxin's cold face, which was usually emotionless, faintly showed some strange emotions. You left the bloody mercenary group? Yes, the woman answered straightforwardly. Are you crazy? Zhu Wuxin finally shifted his gaze to the woman. Su Qingbing slowly extended her hand, holding Zhu Wuxin's wrist. If you're crazy, I'll be crazy with you. Zhu Wuxin pursed his lips, focusing on Su Qingbing's hand on his wrist. He did not say anything, but he did not shake off Su Qingbing's hand. The people of the illusory tribe felt the hidden fluctuations between the two of them. They looked left and right. Huan Luo could not help but ask in a low voice, Captain Su, aren't you here to stop Lord Young Master from doing something stupid? No. Su Qingbing slowly tightened her grip on Zhu Wuxin's wrist. Then she smiled faintly. I'm going crazy with him. Huan Luo's face instantly turned pale. Su Qingbing was not here to persuade their Lord Young Master. Instead, Instead, he wanted to accompany the young master into the uninhabited mountain. Looking at Huan Luo's expression, Su Qingbing's smile became even more beautiful. With me around, at least, you will feel more at ease, won't you? The illusion clansmen were speechless. Indeed. If young lord insists on entering the uninhabited mountain, Su Qingbing was following them. He could more or less take care of young master. Moreover, they understood Su Qingbing's feelings for their young master. If the young master was in any danger, Su Qingbing would definitely do her best to protect him. But the people of the illusion race looked at each other and wanted to say something. Su Qingbing interrupted their thoughts. No one can change what he has decided. Do as he says and leave the last bloodline of the illusion race here. The people of the illusion race were speechless. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as Su Qingbing held onto Zhu Wuxin's arm and the two of them gradually disappeared in front of them, completely blending into the desolate, uninhabited mountain. Huan Luo clenched her fists, loosened them again. Her eyes were scarlet. Huan 3, why didn't you stop the young master? When she opened her mouth, her voice was a little choked. Beside her, the expressionless young man glanced at her and said coldly, Indeed, no one can change what the young master has decided. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Chapter 5291. Huan Luo pursed her lips and turned her head away. Huan 3 turned around expressionlessly and walked away. Let's go. That cold and indifferent word made everyone from the illusion clan looked at each other in dismay. But Huan 3 didn't stop as he walked further and further away. Huan Luo was still standing on the same spot as she looked towards the direction of Mount No Man, not moving at all. Everyone from the illusion clan looked left and right. Just as Huan 3's figure was about to disappear in front of their eyes. In the end, they still chose to chase after Huan 3. Inside Mount No Man, Su Qingbing supported Zhu Wuxian as they walked step by step slowly into the mountain. The atmosphere between the two of them was strange as they remained silent. After walking for about half an incense's time, Zhu Wuxian was the first to speak, breaking the silence. Why are you following me? Whatever you're here for, I'm here for. Su Qingbing's lips curled slightly as she glanced sideways at the cold man beside her. Zhu Wuxian frowned slightly. This matter doesn't have much to do with you. Why are you doing this? That's right. It indeed doesn't have much to do with me. Su Qingbing laughed lightly, but Zhu Wuxian, the newly appointed God Emperor and revered warriorless matter, what does it have to do with you? The lady's question made Zhu Wuxian speechless. Su Qingbing shifted her gaze as her pair of spirited beautiful eyes looked towards the front. Her voice was as calm as water, just like Zhu Wuxian, unable to stir up any huge waves. Her lips curled as she spoke calmly, You're doing it for Qing Luo, I'm doing it for you. I'm no different from you. Su Qingbing. Zhu Wuxian's thin lips moved slightly as he spat out Su Qingbing's name. Su Qingbing looked up at the sky as she interrupted Zhu Wuxian's words. Don't talk to me about principles, to tell the truth. You don't have any rights to say that to me. After all, if I used the same words to make you give up on the newly appointed God Phoenix, would you be willing? Zhu Wuxian. That's right. This was the answer that Su Qingbing had expected, but it still made Su Qingbing's heart feel a little stabbing pain. She ignored the throbbing pain in her heart and forced a smile. My goal is to make you feel guilty towards me. You'll see everything I've done for you. Perhaps I'll exist in your eyes. Who knows? Su Qingbing's brisk voice and tone eased the heavy atmosphere between the two of them a little. The two of them walked for a while. Zhu Wuxian spoke again, breaking the silence. Do you know why I came to Desolate Mountain? I more or less understand you. Su Qingbing tilted her head and looked at him with a smile in her eyes. She and Zhu Wuxin could be considered friends. She had thought about it many times. If only she had been the first person to give Zhu Wuxin warmth back then. Would the result be different? But there was no such thing as if. She could only stand by his side as a friend, as a brother, and accompany him. At the thought of the past, Su Qingbing's eyes lit up with some tranquility and serenity. You came all the way to Desolate Mountain, a place with such a thick murderous aura. I can't think of any other reason besides the newly appointed God Phoenix. Su Qingbing smiled. She's my love rival after all. Aren't you being too cruel to me by asking me to answer this question? Zhu Wuxian's expression did not change much. It's still not too late to go back now. You're chasing me away just like that? Su Qingbing suddenly stretched out her hand boldly and held his arm. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Seventh young mistress who likes trash. Lord Dizun, please be gentler. Chapter 5292. Zhu Wuxin struggled. Su Qingbing clung to him even tighter. The lady's elegant face was even more calm. Zhu Wuxin, since I've decided to follow you, I'm prepared to be shameless, just like how you treat the new divine phoenix. Her smile was also magnanimous. What's more, you really need me now, don't you? Zhu Wuxian's cold face froze slightly. I've liked you for so many years, and I'm also the only one who can stay by your side for so long. My understanding of you is far beyond your imagination. The lady smiled brightly, but there was more sincerity in her smile. It was as if this would be the last time she would pour out her feelings. Therefore she held nothing back. Zhu Wuxin's thin lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything in the end. He just walked forward silently. Su Qingbing, on the other hand, no longer had so many concerns after she opened her heart. She tilted her head and stared at Zhu Wuxin's side profile. The place where Supremacy Worryless was sealed has become the #1 place of extreme Een in the demon territory after years of nurturing by Supremacy Worryless. This also means that Supremacy Worryless needs Een Chi and Murderous Aura as the source of power. Apart from the Demon Destruction Mountain in the demon territory, the only other place in the demon territory that is filled with murderous aura is Immortal Mountain. She paused. So, Supremacy Worryless must be recuperating somewhere in this Immortal Mountain. In the Demon Palace of the Demon Territory. After 2 days of consideration, and after Baisu tested Feng Shi's thoughts and attitude, she finally decided to stay in the Feng residence. When she made her decision, the Feng family master looked delighted. Master Feng was delighted. He looked at Baisu as if she was his future daughter-in-law. Feng Liqiong's expression was a little stiff. When she looked at Baisu, she looked away unnaturally. Finally, when no one was paying attention, she secretly said to Baisu, "Thank you." Baisu glanced at him expressionlessly. Then, her gaze returned to Feng Shi, who was still sleeping soundly, and her eyes became gentle. However, his voice was still as cold as ever. "You don't have to thank me. I stayed behind for Cici. In the past 6 years, I didn't fulfill my duty as a mother. I didn't stay by his side and watch him grow. For the past 6 years he has lacked the care of a mother. So, I don't want Cici to lose her father, grandfather and loved ones because of me in the future. I just want Cici to be happy. It has nothing to do with you." The woman's emotions were very indifferent, and her words were also so straightforward that no one could respond to her. Feng Liqiong's expression stiffened even further. Her mouth moved, but when she looked at the woman's gentle profile, it was as if there was a gentle light shining on that beautiful face. All the words were stuck in her throat, unable to come out. Seeing this, Feng family master quickly opened his mouth to break the strange atmosphere between the two sides. He strode forward with a big smile on his face. "It's good that you stay. It's good that you stay. Cici has always wanted his father and mother to stay with him since he was young. Now that he can finally fulfill his wish, he will be very happy." Of course, Feng family master hoped that if Baisu could be with Feng Liqiong, not only would Feng Liqiong's marriage be resolved, but they would also be able to reunite as a family. Now the only one who could make Baisu stay was Feng Shi. The Feng family master was already thinking about how to discuss with Feng Shi secretly so that Feng Shi could be a godly assistant. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5293. Baisu stayed in the demon hall just like that. The Feng family members were overjoyed. But the various powerhouses in the demon domain couldn't even smile. The demon domain was originally separated from the outside world. It was rare to meet outsiders in 100 years. Towards those outsiders, the people in the demon domain were naturally against it. But now, wave after wave of people from the outside world came one after another, practically filling up the entire demon realm. This made the people in the demon domain start to panic. They were all guessing. Did the outside world intend to join forces to attack the demon domain? Now, even the new divine phoenix of the god world had brought along her entire family and stayed in the demon domain. This made the people in the demon domain have the guts. The feeling that the outside world intended to invade the demon domain. But it was what they thought. The people from the demon domain who had always been known as bloodthirsty, cold-blooded and loved to kill, had no thoughts of starting a war at this moment. What a joke. Some time ago, the newly appointed God Phoenix inherited the God Emperor's inheritance. The people in the demon domain had witnessed it with their own eyes. Their legend from 10,000 years ago, the man known as the Demon Dragon, the king of the demon domain, was so respectful, in front of the newly appointed God Phoenix. Then there was that person, the old man in the demon domain, who had heard of the legend regarding revered Worryless. That revered Worryless' ability was comparable to the former God Emperor. He was also the most powerful person in the world. 10,000 years ago, the former God Emperor used his own life to seal revered Worryless. And that revered Worryless seal had already been removed. But he was seriously injured by the newly appointed God Phoenix Feng Qing Luo. Someone who could injure revered Worryless so seriously. Don't you think she's powerful? Don't you think she's powerful? No matter how much they loved to kill, it didn't mean that they had no brains to find trouble with the newly appointed God Phoenix Feng Qing Luo. Hence, he could only endure the large group of people in the outside world in fear and trepidation, staying in the demon domain. After a day of recuperation, Yi Qing Luo's body had completely recovered, full of vitality. She had just walked out of the palace when she saw the Lord of the Demon Hall, Demon Enchantress, walking towards her aggressively. The demonic enchantress was dressed in a long crow feather robe. As she fluttered behind her, it was as if she had spread out her black wings, causing her cold and elegant face to reveal a sinister aura. When the demonic charm's vision fell onto Yi Qing Luo, it was as if all of his emotions had exploded in that instant. Lord Divine Phoenix. The demonic enchantress's voice was icy cold as she called out Yi Qing Luo's honorific. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and met the devilish gaze. That gorgeous face did not show much emotion, as if it did not care about the rage of the demonic enchantress. The more she acted like this, the angrier the demonic enchantress became. What exactly do you outsiders want? Did they all treat the infernal domain as a sightseeing place? You people from the divine world have come here, and even people from other worlds have come here. Do you think that the devil zone is outside of the heavenly Tao's control, and you don't need to follow the rules of other worlds? Facing the wrath of the demonic enchantress, Yi Qing Luo was still as calm as ever. She said, "You don't have to worry, the God realm has no intention of invading the demon realm. We, the devil zone, have been outside the heavenly Tao for the past 10,000 years, and we don't want to have any involvement with you outsiders. Your existence today has already seriously disturbed the normal life of the devil zone." The demonic enchantress's expression sunk as she spat out every single word. "Lord Divine Phoenix, this Lord hopes that you can be clear that the cause of this matter is because of the previous God Emperor's sovereign. You, the previous God Emperor's sovereign's descendant and the previous God Emperor's sovereign, have really treated the devil zone as a toy in your hands? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your loving hands. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your loving hands." Chapter 5294. If it wasn't for Fenggu who sealed Huang Wuyo here. If it wasn't for Fenggu who sealed himself here. If it wasn't for the fact that when Fenggu sealed himself, he also sealed the devil domain's previous king Mo Long. The devil domain wouldn't be spied on by the various domains. The moment there were more people, the devil domain would be in chaos. Not to mention the various powerhouses from various domains, all gathered here. It was even messier than before. And the main culprit who caused all of this was Feng Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's expression had a slight change. She raised her eyes slightly and with a demonic charm she asked calmly, "What do you want?" Now the devil domain was a foregone conclusion. The idea of chasing the various powerhouses out of the devil domain wasn't realistic at all. After all, the former sovereign of God's tomb was still here. Huang Wuyo was still in the devil domain. The various powerhouses had gone through many hardships to come to the devil domain. Wasn't it for the sake of the treasures in the tomb? Wasn't it for the sake of... to see if they could get something beneficial to their own powerhouses from the world-famous revered Carefree? It was absolutely impossible for the various powerhouses to leave the devil domain. So, the demonic enchantress ran over here and angrily rebuked them. But she had another motive. The demonic enchantress didn't beat around the bush as she asked directly, "Previously, do you still keep your promise to this lord?" Naturally. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed as she hinted at something. "As long as you didn't collaborate with Huang Wuyo, you will definitely be able to sit firmly on the Devil Hall Master's position." She paused slightly as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. That smile obviously looked sweet. However, it inexplicably gave people a feeling of dread and panic. But Yi Qing Luo's topic of conversation changed as her terrifying laughter rang faintly. If you were to go back on our previous agreement, then this Devil Hall master position. I can change someone else to sit on it? The young lady's voice was calm and cold, yet confident and ostentatious. That exquisite brows were filled with absolute confidence. As though what she said was merely the calmness of discussing the changes in the weather. The demonic enchantress's expression changed slightly. Anger surged in his heart. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see the devil enchantress's murderous glare as she continued smiling as her pink lips curled upwards, continuing, I believe that if I push Madame Huang Ci to take the position, I believe Devil Domain's people will accept it very well. The indifference in the girl's tone was very obvious. The demonic enchantress' expression darkened, as if it was about to rain at any moment. But the demonic enchantress was unable to refute Yi Qing Luo's words. Because, based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability and status, she pondered, it could really change the master of the infernal domain. This was what the demonic enchantress was most worried about. Otherwise, she wouldn't have specially come to look for Yi Qing Luo at this timing. Demonic enchantress suppressed her anger, her cold and elegant face was covered with frost. I am not a person who goes back on her words. The Palace of Darkness once deceived me with a fake venerable emperor. I have no trust in the Palace of Darkness, so how can I cooperate with the Palace of Darkness again? However, her righteous words did not cause the expression of the young girl opposite her to change in the slightest. Yi Qing Luo remained calm as she smiled at the demonic enchantress. Her pink lips were still curled as she smiled indifferently. I'm not talking about the Palace of Darkness, but Wang Wuyo. The demonic enchantress's expression instantly turned pale. Her body retreated 2 steps backwards as she looked at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, which was filled with astonishment. Her heart was pounding wildly. The demonic enchantress suppressed this feeling as she tried her best to make her expression appear normal. That's natural. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5295. After the demonic enchantress finished her sentence, she was unable to look straight into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. She took a deep breath and looked away. She naturally heard the warning in Yi Qing Luo's words. She was indeed the new divine phoenix. She looked like she was recuperating in the demonic hall and loving the people of the Feng family. It was as if she had long forgotten about the previous battles. However, he didn't miss a single thing that he should know. She had underestimated Yi Qing Luo. Initially, he thought that he would be able to deceive everyone by being discreet. Only now did he know, Yi Qing Luo had no reaction, nor did she find trouble with her. It was just that everything was in the palm of his hand, so he didn't care much about it. The hands under the enchantress's long robe were tightly clenched. He was like a prisoner on death row waiting to be sentenced. The atmosphere instantly froze. The silence was depressing. When the demonic enchantress was almost out of breath, only then did the girl's clear laughter come from the other side. The young girl's crimson-red lips curled into an arc, looking pure and harmless. Her gorgeous face was covered in a slight smile that was like a blooming flower, and it was peerlessly beautiful. I naturally believe in Lord Devil Hall's words. She took a step forward and smiled brightly. So, I hope that Lord Devil Lord will put in some effort to find Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. The demonic enchantress took a deep breath, her voice somewhat tense. This demonic enchantress will naturally speed up the search. Yes. The young girl nodded slowly. After the matter with Huang Wuyo is over, I will naturally lead the people of the God Realm to retreat from the Devil Domain. At that time, you will still be the high and mighty Lord of the Devil Palace in the Devil Domain, and the God Realm will not step into the Devil Domain again. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. After that, he walked past the demonic enchantress and left the palace, heading toward Feng Shi's palace. Until Yi Qing Luo left, the demon palaces were all stunned. By the time she regained her senses, she realized that the back of her clothes was already wet and stuck to her body. She had actually been intimidated by a young girl. The demonic enchantress took a few deep breaths, suppressing the fear in her heart. Everything she had done, Yi Qing Luo was actually very clear about it. He didn't point it out, but he was giving her a chance. As for her, how should he choose? This choice would affect her future. Yi Qing Luo had just walked out of the palace when she saw Yan Xiaoyi and the others standing at the entrance. The Brothers of the World group had long heard about what happened in the Devil region, and those with sufficient strength all hurried over. Seeing Yi Qing Luo coming out, Yan Xiaoyi was the first one who couldn't hold it in. Qing Luo, if you're disloyal once, you don't need to do it 100 times. He's already working with you, yet he still has other thoughts. This kind of person can't be trusted. They had just arrived at the entrance when they saw the Devil Hall. Yan Xiaoyi had originally intended to charge forward directly, but she was stopped by Qiao Jin. The group of them had heard the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and the Devil Enchantress clearly. After seeing the world group, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned gentler as the smile on her lips became more sincere and tender. Even with her current identity, how could she intimidate others? Her brothers, her companions, still treated her with the same attitude. It wasn't any different from before. She pulled Yan Xiaoyi's hand as she patted it gently. She had never been loyal to me before, so it's not considered as betrayal. She had previously worked with the Gloomy Palace and later on turned her back to work with me. That means that this person, as long as the bargaining chip is given enough, she would be able to lean towards any side. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5296. The current Devil region isn't as peaceful as what we see on the surface. Once there's a change of master, I'm afraid there would be another huge wave. Our main motive for staying in the Devil region is to let Huang Wuyo rest in eternal sleep, to atone for what we had planned 10,000 years ago for Mother. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes lifted slightly as she shot towards the front without any focus. I don't want to add to the chaos and let you all fall into danger because of me. She sighed softly as she held Yan Xiaoyi's hand and increased her strength slightly. Yan Xiaoyi could clearly feel the heat on the young lady's palm. Their hands were intertwined, conveying a sense of solemnity and cherishing. The anger on Yan Xiaoyi's face towards the devil slowly dissipated as her brows started to soften. She held Yi Qing Luo's hand as she slowed down her tone and gave a light laugh. You have always been very strong and had always been walking in front of us. We've been protected very, very well by you. Her tone was serious and dignified, so don't feel guilty or blame yourself. Everything that we've experienced is the motivation to push us to grow. If it wasn't for your protection, we wouldn't be able to be so unrestrained, using our own method to grow. And the reason why we're able to appear in the Devil region, to be able to turn from the trash that everyone ridiculed, to become our current strong selves. All of this is all because of you. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly stretched out her hand as she circled the young lady's neck and hugged her tightly. Qing Luo, really? Thank you for appearing. Yi Qing Luo went into a slight daze as she listened to the gentle whisper by her ear. Her brows slowly turned gentle as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be dotted with dazzling stars. Her heart softened. The two of them headed towards Feng Shi's direction to take a look at Feng Shi's condition and then went to check on Ling Long. Feng Shi's condition was still all right. Only Ling Long, perhaps it was because of her father who wasn't considered benevolent in her memory, but who was always obedient to her, suddenly turned so malevolent and even attempted to take her life. This had caused a huge trauma in the hearts of this little girl. Even when she woke up, Ling Long was still stuck in the shadow, unable to walk out. She could only use medication to calm her down and sleep again. Ghost Doctor and the rest had also rushed over along with the World Group brothers. After taking a look at Ling Long, the Ghost Doctor shook his head. A heart's ailment could only be treated with medicine from the heart. He was also powerless. Ling Long could not walk out of her nightmare. I will never be able to calm down. In this regard, Yi Qing Luo thought of many ways. In the end, it was Bai Su who brought the pale Feng Shi to see Ling Long, and Ling Long's condition improved a little. But only a little. Yi Qing Luo walked out of Ling Long's room and the few people beside her revealed a melancholic expression as they heaved a long sigh. I plan to bring Cici and Ling Long back to the divine realm first. Bai Su leaned against the door and said to Yi Qing Luo, but her eyes were fixed on the inside of the house. Feng Shi was sitting by Ling Long's bed, gently coaxing her to sleep. As for Ling Long, Bai Su was still a little unhappy. After all, Feng Shi had been injured because of Ling Long. That was why she had exposed the mark of the Divine Emperor's successor and attracted Huang Wuyo's attention. Yes, and, most importantly, Ling Long was Huang Wuyo's daughter. Although Yi Qing Luo was also Huang Wuyo's daughter. But after all, the environment they grew up in and the things they carried were different. But Feng Shi valued Ling Long. She valued him so much that in order to protect Ling Long, he exploded with an unbearable energy load. How could Bai Su bear to do that, and how could she bear to stop Feng Shi and Ling Long from interacting? 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5297. Therefore Baisu decided. Then he left the demonic domain with Linglong. Yiqing Luo had her own considerations on this point that Baisu had raised. Linglong's current situation. Staying in the demon domain was indeed more dangerous. This was especially true for Huang Wuyo, who was hiding somewhere. Now that he knew that Fengshi was the next successor of the Divine Emperor, he would probably attack Fengshi secretly. It would probably be safer to take Fengshi away from the demon territory while Huang Wuyo was still severely injured. She pursed her lips. Do you have a place to go? Baisu nodded. Since I can stay outside of the myriad world and not be restrained, I naturally have a place that belongs to me. Since I decided to take Cici away, I must have made full preparations. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment before she opened her mouth to ask, Then, what about my maternal grandfather and uncle? Baisu frowned slightly. She was a little reluctant, but she still continued to say, I promised Cici that I wouldn't let him leave his grandfather, so I will keep my promise. In other words, Old Master Feng and Feng Liqiong would also leave with them. Yiqing Luo agreed to Baisu's idea without hesitation. Now that Old Master Feng and Feng Liqiong had left the demonic realm, she felt more at ease. He stayed in the infernal domain for a day. The more dangerous it was, the higher the danger. Yiqing Luo turned towards Yan Shaoyi and the rest. You all? Before she could finish speaking, Yan Shaoyi seemed to already know what she wanted to say and took the initiative to interrupt her. We've worked so hard to grow and it wasn't easy to catch up to your footsteps. Don't think of leaving us behind. The few people behind her gazed firmly at Yiqing Luo as they gave a heavy end sound. They knew that Yiqing Luo was trying to persuade them to follow Baisu to leave the devil region. However, if they were to leave the infernal domain because of danger, otherwise he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble to rush over to the demon domain. Looking at their resolute faces with an expression of, if you chase me away we will die in front of you, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed. Who said I want you to leave? I'm asking you to help cover their escape. Don't let anyone discover them, including that Lord of the Devil Palace. Baisu left quietly. In the current situation of the demon domain, all the major forces were crowded together. With so many people missing, it did not attract too much attention. Whereas the demonic enchantress who had been beaten by Yiqing Luo quickly sent news over. She had already found out where Huang Wuyo was hiding. Devil Succubus told Yiqing Luo the address and his vision fell onto the young lady's side. That godlike man suppressed the unwillingness in his heart as he spoke in a deep and cold voice. I hope you will remember what you promised this prince. To Dmo Xian. If the demonic enchantress said that she didn't have any thoughts, then it was definitely impossible. After all, Dmo Xian's status was high and mighty. The reason why she had agreed to the Palace of Darkness request to marry the Overlord, other than the deal with the Palace of Darkness, there was also the fact that Dmo Xian was coveting her. But unexpectedly, the person she coveted was a fake. And the real Dmo Xian. However, he was not even interested in looking at her. However, at this moment, no matter how much unwillingness and resentment he felt in his heart, the demonic enchantress did not reveal anything. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as she smiled sweetly, contrasting that bright and beautiful face, making it even more captivating. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, meeting with the demonic enchantress's gaze. The demonic enchantress felt that the secret in her heart seemed to have been seen through. This feeling was the same as the few times when she discussed the deal with Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had seen through everything. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5298. Yiqing Luo had this kind of magical power. It was as if everything was under her control. As expected. The next moment, a young lady's clear voice drifted into his ears. If Lord Demonic Lord knows his place, I naturally will not forget. She paused as her fair hand hooked onto the man's arm. Pulling him, she walked past the demonic enchantress, towards the outside of the hall. When they passed by the demonic enchantress, the young lady slightly suppressed her voice as she glanced sideways, her pink lips curled slightly. Let me give Lord Demonic Lord a piece of advice. Don't have any thoughts that you shouldn't have. She seemed to be smiling, but that low charming voice, when it entered the demonic enchantress's ears, it made the demonic enchantress's hair stand on end. The young lady's words had a double meaning. It was a warning to the demonic enchantress to know its place and cooperate with her. and also a warning to the demonic enchantress. Don't have any thoughts towards her man. Leaving the palace, Dmo Xian drew the little girl into his arms as he whispered softly, "Is Lil Luo jealous?" Yiqing Luo hooked the man's slender fingers as she circled it in her palm. "Not jealous. After all, the man I chose is so outstanding, so it's normal for other women to covet you." She didn't mind other women liking Dmo Xian. She couldn't control a person's heart if they liked him. Furthermore, her man was indeed outstanding. But she raised her head slightly as she met the man's eyes, which were as deep as ink, projecting only her silhouette. Her pink lips curled slightly as she smiled. "If because I like you, I taint you. I can't take it." That absolutely stunning face, the smile on the corners of her lips slowly turned bright and flamboyant. Like a coquettish mandala, gradually blooming. That kind of intoxicating, captivating one's soul. "After all, you belong to me. Xian. Her own Xian." She could like him. But to cross the boundary she couldn't. Dmo Xian's peerless face revealed an indulgent and tender smile. He nodded as his eyes were clear. "Yes, I'm yours." Yiqing Luo prodded his face satisfactorily. "Good boy." The two of them hadn't been like this for a long time, spending time alone. The two of them stuck together and talked for a while. Yiqing Luo then brought up the main topic. "That's right, Xian, haven't you been trying to find out where Huang Wuyo is these few days? Is there any news?" "There's news, but..." Dmo Xian gazed at the young lady's face as he replied calmly, "There was an accident. Do you want to know?" "Accident?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "You still have an accident? Could it be that he has already left the infernal domain? If Huang Wuyo really escaped from the demon domain, if Baisu left with the Feng family, Fengxi and Linglong, it would be dangerous." Dmo Xian shook his head. "I've sent people from the Imperial Palace to guard the various exits of the Devil's Domain and even set up an array. No matter how many ancient forbidden spells Huang Wuyo knows, trying to undo the array I've set up would definitely attract my attention. Huang Wuyo must still be in the demon domain." After listening to Dmo Xian's words, Yiqing Luo was relieved. "Then what is the accident you mentioned?" "The accident is..." Dmo Xian lowered his head slightly as he leaned close to her ear. "Other than the Devil Extermination Mountain, the second largest extreme Yin ground in the demon domain, Mount Wu Rin, is Huang Wuyo's second resting place. The people from the Imperial Palace have detected Huang Wuyo's presence in Mount Wu Rin. Other than that, there's also..." Dmo Xian paused for a moment before spitting out a name, Zhu Wu Xin. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. "Zhu Wu Xin? He's also in Mount Wu Rin?" "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 5299. Ever since they came out of the Divine Emperor's seal, the people of the illusion race took Zhu Wuxin away. And at that time, apart from being drugged by her, Zhu Wuxin seemed to have suffered quite a serious injury. Why did he come to uninhabited mountain instead of recuperating? The young lady's expression fell into Dmo Xian's eyes. Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed as he pinched her nose and his tone seemed to be displeased. "Lil Luo, seems to trust Zhu Wuxin quite a lot." Huang Wuyo was hiding in the uninhabited mountain. Uninhabited mountain detected Zhu Wuxin's aura again. Logically speaking, any normal person would guess that Huang Wuyo and Zhu Wuxin were in cahoots. But Yiqing Luo totally didn't think in this direction. It was enough to show how much trust Yiqing Luo had towards Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo choked on her words. Her little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's hand and moved his hand away from her nose. "You're spilling the vinegar jar again." Dmo Xian's face didn't reveal a single bit of embarrassment. Instead he spoke in a righteous manner. "Who doesn't know about Zhu Wuxin's feelings towards you? Why can't I be jealous?" Yiqing Luo burst out laughing with a pft. She pouted coquettishly as she stared at Dmo Xian and replied snappily, "Huang Wuyo is the murderer who exterminated the illusory clan. As the young lord of the illusory clan, Zhu Wuxin is the only hope of the illusory clan. He must be crazy to acknowledge the enemy as his father and collaborate with Huang Wuyo again. Furthermore, Zhu Wuxin was too stubborn. His obsession with her. They would also not allow him and Huang Wuyo to work together again. Because Huang Wuyo's motive was obvious. Huang Wuyo was determined to take Yiqing Luo's life and dig out her profound heart jade, using her fresh blood to irrigate himself. Therefore, this was the reason why Zhu Wuxin appeared on the uninhabited mountain. Perhaps there was only one. Yiqing Luo's expression turned slightly grave as she spoke in a deep voice. Now we have to rush over to Mount Wu Ren. Chu Wuxin was probably doing this for her and the illusion race. He would first head to the uninhabited mountain to look for the whereabouts of Huang Wuyo. The people of the demon realm were in a state of panic. All the major forces were wary of each other. However, they all had the same goal. That was, Devil Domain's Devil Hall, Yiqing Luo's group's whereabouts. For the major forces, whether it was the tomb of the former divine emperor or the place where revered Carefree was sealed, that was related to Yiqing Luo. Moreover, Yiqing Luo was able to become the current divine phoenix. It was definitely not that easy to inherit the position of the divine phoenix. There must be some secret behind this. Even if they couldn't defeat Yiqing Luo, they couldn't defeat the Overlord. At the very least, finding out Yiqing Luo's secret would more or less be able to take advantage of her secretly. Especially now that Yiqing Luo and the others were still in the Devil region. This also meant that there were definitely other secrets hidden in the infernal domain. That was what many forces were thinking. Because of this, more and more people paid attention to the demonic hall. But this was because the demon hall was being watched by countless spies. Yiqing Luo's group still silently disappeared from the Devil Hall. At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the rest had already started on their journey towards the Mountain of No Man. The demonic palace was not far from the desolate mountain. Yiqing Luo led the group of brothers along with the 5 ghosts and the rest all the way forward. After walking for about a day, they had already reached the foot of the Mountain of No Man. Looking at the Mountain of No Man, it was a stretch of undulating mountain range. Withered yellow trees without any signs of life were scattered all over the place. Wisps of gloomy cold air floated in the sky, bringing along a strong malicious intent. This made this Mountain of No Man added a tinge of treachery. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5300. Yiqing Luo had just gotten close to it when she felt the icy cold viper like cold viper, causing her brows to crease tightly. The atmosphere here. It wasn't any lesser than Devil Destruction Mountain Xin Qi. It was able to cause discomfort to humans. It was indeed a place that Huang Wuyo would choose. The yin qi in this place was the best healing medicine for Huang Wuyo. The man by her side clasped their fingers together tightly. His gentle and concerned gaze fell on her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met his gaze as she smiled and shook her head, indicating that she was fine. Following that, she looked at Yan Xiaoyi and the rest behind her as she instructed, "Everyone be careful. The yin qi here is very heavy and it is harmful to the body. If you breathe it in for a long period of time, it will affect your bodies. If you are not feeling well, don't force yourself. Just stay here and be our support." Her words were heard. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest frowned as they were about to retort. Yiqing Luo interrupted their words, "You want to stay by my side because you want to help me to do something for me. But under these prerequisites. The most important thing is to protect yourselves. If you are at the foot of the mountain, you will feel a strong discomfort towards the yin qi here. Then if you enter the inner part of the mountain, I'm afraid you will feel even more uncomfortable." Huang Wuyo had always liked to make use of people's hearts, toying with them. Once something happens to you, he might possibly make use of you to clamp down on me and restrain me. By then, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? The young lady's question made everyone's expression congealed slightly. In the end, they left 5 of them at the foot of the mountain, ready to receive them anytime. As for the remaining people who entered the mountain, Ghost Doctor gave each of them 2 medicinal pills, although it wasn't able to defend against the strong yin qi, but it would at least make everyone's body slightly more comfortable. The moment Yiqing Luo stepped into the mountain, she sensed that something was amiss. Stepping into the mountain, everything in front of her eyes instantly changed from the barren mountain and withered trees to a densely packed forest. The most frightening thing about this densely packed area was that this huge forest was not an ordinary green color, but as though it was surrounded by a thick black fog. Black tree branches, black leaves. It exuded an eerie aura. The trees were baring their fangs and brandishing their sharp branches. The leaves were so sharp that they looked like sharp fangs. It was like a living creature. In the air, apart from the thick smell of decay and dampness, there was also a thick, nauseating smell of blood. When the wind blew, it became even denser, filling their nostrils. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as her fingertips speedily opened up her glower flame fan, using a protective stance to protect the group of people behind her. Spatial enchantment. Where they were now. It could be said to be the uninhabited mountain, but it could also be said to be another space within the uninhabited mountain. And this was the space that the person who had set up the spatial enchantment wanted them to see. Other than Huang Wuyo, no one else could possess such a sinister secret technique. It seemed that she did not need to search for Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. You could be sure now. Huang Wuyo was in the uninhabited mountain. In a short span of 3 days, Huang Wuyo recovered rather quickly. Not only did he manage to occupy Empyrean Mountain, he even had the energy to set up such a complicated spatial formation around the enormous Empyrean Mountain. From the smell of blood in the air. In these 3 days, Huang Wuyo had absorbed quite a lot of resignation. Yo Hong, you're indeed that woman Feng Ji's daughter, you're still very vigilant. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5301. A sinister voice was heard faintly from the dense forest. That laughter was filled with a thick sense of sarcasm. This voice suddenly rang in the midst of the group of vigilant and solemn atmosphere. Instantly it attracted everyone's attention as they all looked over in unison. In the dense black forest, a tall figure was faintly discernible as it approached from afar. Into everyone's eyes, Yingqi lingered around. That man dressed in a black long robe seemed to be materialized from the black fog. When Yiqing Luo saw that man's face clearly, her narrow eyes squinted slightly. Long Outyin, what are you doing here? Why was he here? Seeing Long Outyin, that murderous and bloody aura, under the sky full of Yin Qi, revealed a hint of bloodthirsty intent. Instantly, it made the world group's faces revealed vigilance as they speedily displayed a defensive stance, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo. Whereas Ghost Doctor and the other 4 frowned slightly as their brows creased tightly as they stared at Long Outyin, sizing him up. The expression on their faces was complicated and vigilant. This man's aura was strangely familiar. Seeing that Yiqing Luo directly called out his name, they probably knew each other. Long Outyan's sinister and bloodthirsty eyes sized up the world group's people with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Seeing their vigilant looks as though they were facing a great enemy, his lips couldn't help but curled into a sneer of ridicule. Little thing, you just brought these few pieces of trash and stepped onto the desolate mountain? Are you thinking too highly of yourself? Or are you belittling that monster inside? Yiqing Luo's expression instantly sunk. Long Outyin, you can ridicule me however you want. But don't belittle my brother. Long Outyin sneered as he opened up his arms and waved it lazily. Alright, this seat won't say any more. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. This Long Outyin wasn't someone who was so easily obedient. To compromise so quickly wasn't like his style. Long Outyan's cold gaze squinted at Yiqing Luo's expression as he sneered. Little thing, don't use this kind of expression to look at this seat. This seat is here. It's merely because I'm bored. This seat has just awoken and there's no place for me to go, so I can only follow you. His tone was filled with helplessness, as though following Yiqing Luo was her greatest honor. Yiqing Luo's vision went past him and looked towards the direction where he had just walked out from. How did you know that I would come to Mount Wu Ren? That was the direction of the inner part of the mountain. In other words, Long Outyin had entered the uninhabited mountain early in the morning. Long Ao Tian looked at Yiqing Luo as though he was looking at an idiot. You've been staying in the devil region, isn't it because you haven't settled that monster inside? That monster is in the uninhabited mountain, how could you not come? Yiqing Luo. Fine, I know you're smart, I know you're amazing. What did he mean by that smug and boastful tone? Yiqing Luo looked at the world group beside her as she waved her hand. No matter, continue walking into the mountain. Although the world group had retracted their defensive stance, their gazes towards Long Outyin were still filled with vigilance. After all, this person didn't look like a good person at all. Yiqing Luo left. Long Outyin followed behind him, walking leisurely as if he was on an outing. They walked for about the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. Yiqing Luo suddenly asked, when did you come in? Earlier than you. By a few hours. Long Outyin replied. Yiqing Luo replied, when you entered Mount Wu Ren, was there already a spatial enchantment set up? 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5302. Long Outyin curled his lips into a sinister smile. What's in it for me to tell you? Yiqing Luo was expressionless. Say it if you like. After saying that, she turned her head and didn't look at him anymore. Yiqing Luo ignored him. Long Outyin felt even worse. Hey hey hey. Long Ao Tian hastened his footsteps as he walked side by side with Yiqing Luo. No matter what, this seat is the famous Lord Demon Dragon from 10,000 years ago. What's wrong with giving some benefits to ask this seat some questions? Was that too much to ask? If it was 10,000 years ago, just being able to speak to him was already a blessing accumulated in one's previous life. Yiqing Luo didn't even give him a look. Long Outyin couldn't hold it in anymore. Fine, I'll tell you. When I arrived, the immortal mountain had already been covered by that monster's energy. I think that monster had already guessed that you would come here. He paused, and his tone suddenly became gloating. That monster knows that you're coming, but it has no intention of escaping. It's ready to invite you into its trap. And you just happened to deliver yourself to me. An evil smile flashed across Long Outyin's bloodthirsty and cold eyes. You guys have to be careful. His drawn-out tone added some haze to the strange atmosphere. This made the world group's heart sink even further. Yen Xiaoyi pursed her lips and glared at Long Outyin. She wanted to scold him. Since he had chosen to follow their team, they didn't expect him to help, but he shouldn't make sarcastic remarks from the side either. However, Qiao Jin pressed down on her arm and shook his head gently at her. That person is not simple. Qiao Jin lowered his voice. A person from 10,000 years ago. I'm afraid he's someone who can be mentioned in the same breath as the previous Emperor of Gods, Huang Wuyo. If Long Outyin were to be angered at this moment, on the contrary, it would only cause more trouble. There's a very strange aura on him, said the blue-clothed youth who was being supported by Tong Ziqing at the back of the crowd in a low voice. Under the contrast of the Densin Qi, Long Yunzhan's cold face appeared somewhat pale. That pair of azure-blue eyes was faintly suffused with a somewhat complicated flowing light. The man called Long Outyin. There was a smell of kindred to him. However, there was something different. It made him feel like he wanted to take the initiative to get close to her, but at the same time he was a little afraid. This was the first time Long Yunzhan had such a feeling. Perhaps their voices had caught Long Outyin's attention. Or perhaps it was the look in his eyes that made Long Outyin notice it. Long Outyin's eyes, which seemed to have been washed by ice and were filled with bloodlust, suddenly met Long Outyin's gaze. Long Yunzhan instantly felt a chill rise from the bottom of his feet to his brain. His face suddenly turned pale. His body trembled slightly as he was not used to it. What's wrong? Tong Ziqing's eyes were filled with concern. Are you feeling unwell after the yin qi entered your body? Long Yunzhan shook his head, and when he looked at Long Outyin again, that person had already moved his gaze away. However, the pressure on his body did not dissipate because of this. Lord Demon Dragon. The girl's clear voice sounded a bit displeased as she warned, if you don't know your place, then don't follow me. That Lord Demon Dragon, these 4 words, was obviously filled with ridicule. Long Outyin retracted his aura as he shrugged his shoulders. This isn't seeing a little companion, this seat is too tall, happy your head. Yiqing Luo glanced at him coldly, don't have any ideas on my people. I don't have the time to guard against Huang Wuyo and at the same time, guard against you. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5303. Long Outyin's sinister eyes revealed a sinister smile that didn't seem like a smile. Even if he was smiling. It also made one feel horrified. Little thing, I am here specially to help you. Yiqing Luo sneered, why should I believe you? Towards Long Outyin, she could only confirm that this person had no ill intentions. But it was not to the extent of trusting him. After all, this person was hard to control and couldn't be understood. Long Outyin clicked his tongue. You're making me sad by saying that. Immediately after, he changed the topic. I didn't expect. You actually have such a little fellow by your side. I have underestimated you. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she warned in a low voice. You are bored and want to mess around. You can mess around with Huang Wuyo, but don't touch my people. Long Outyin snorted lightly as the sinister smile on his lips deepened. He is not your little lover, why are you so nervous? Yiqing Luo and the rest walked for a long time. Other than the strange plants that filled the sky, there were no other living creatures. And after walking for a long time, they didn't seem to have reached the end. It was as if they were going around in circles. But Yiqing Luo specially left a mark as a sign. But it didn't return to the place where she left the mark. That meant it wasn't like ghosts hitting the wall. The black plants that filled the sky were like ferocious beasts. Visually, it gave one a feeling that there was no difference. No matter how they walked, it was like walking back and forth on the same spot. And the further they went, the thicker the yin qi in the air. As if it was going to penetrate their skin and pour into their bodies. If this went on, they still hadn't seen Huang Wuyo. This group of people were probably going to be eroded by the yin qi in the mountains. Huang Wuyo's body couldn't possibly recover in such a short period of time, otherwise he would have gone down the mountain to stir up trouble. He spent so much effort to set up this spatial enchantment. Other than blocking her from finding him and delaying time, there must be other reasons. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought, suddenly there was a rustling sound in the dense fog lingering in the lush forest. A black shadow could be seen faintly. Everyone instantly focused as they looked ahead vigilantly. After several breaths of silence, the sha-sha-sha sound continued, but it did not approach. That voice, is it luring us over? Yin Xiaoyi frowned slightly as she asked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded. This means that Huang Wuyo can no longer hold himself back. Huang Wuyo's psychological warfare was pretty good. First, he used the dense yin qi to create an oppressive pressure on them. The terrifying black plants baring their fangs and brandishing their claws increased the pressure in their hearts. Then it was aimless. It seemed like he was going around in circles, but it wasn't. At this moment, if there was any movement, those who had already been suppressed by the environment and were on the verge of erupting would definitely rush in the direction of the commotion to investigate. Danger lurked in every corner of this place. If he acted rashly, he would definitely fall into the trap. Yiqing Luo looked around. Senior's 5 ghosts, I'll have to trouble you to help me take care of my group of brothers. Xian and I will go over to take a look. Everyone wanted to stop him. But when they saw the man standing beside Yiqing Luo, they didn't open their mouths. If the overlord was around, he would definitely protect Yiqing Luo well. They couldn't possibly be so passive, waiting for Huang Wuyo to take the initiative to attack. By then it would only make them more passive. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5304. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances as they walked towards the direction of the sound. They had just taken a few steps. A black figure was even faster than them as he walked in front. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she looked at that tall back view which cast an elongated shadow under the thick fog, giving off an indescribable charm. She frowned. Lord Demon Dragon, why are you following me? When she shouted out the words, Lord Demon Dragon, no matter how one heard it, it made one feel especially ridiculed. Long Outyin was no exception. He also frowned as his sinister eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo with a smile which didn't look like a smile as he replied naturally, this seed is of course following you, to see if there's anything fun. Yiqing Luo? In this kind of vicious place where a single word of disagreement could trigger a world-class war, probably only Long Outyin would be so heartless to treat this place as a place to play? Yiqing Luo took a look at Long Outyin and looked at the group of brothers who were being protected by the 5 ghosts. After thinking for a moment, she decided to let Long Outyin follow her. At least this unstable factor was following her, and there was still Dmo Xian who could control him. If she left Long Outyin behind, who knew if Long Outyin would suddenly act up and take action against the group of brothers? Hence, Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to stop him. Yiqing Luo's little hand held onto Dmo Xian's arm as the both of them walked forward carefully. Whereas Long Outyin swaggered as though he was on a field trip as he strode forward without any worries. Yiqing Luo didn't stop him. With such a little white rat to scout the way ahead, she couldn't ask for more. As expected, the instant the 3 of them merged into the dense black forest, a black shadow flashed past and the surrounding plants which were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws were swiftly charging towards them. Those sharp branches and thorny leaves were as though they had opened their bloody mouths in an attempt to swallow the 3 of them. Long Outyin, who was walking right in front, was directly swept into the sky full of plants. Dmo Xian's reaction was swift. The instant Long Outyin fell into the trap, the purple cloud sleeve suddenly waved. A majestic profound ray blocked in front of him and Yiqing Luo. Bam! There was a violent explosion. The plant baring its fangs and brandishing its claws collided with the black light. Seeing that it was unable to devour the 2 of them, more and more plants appeared around them, rushing towards the 2 of them. Densely packed, it directly surrounded Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo, separated by a profound barrier as they were wrapped together. Even though she was protected in Dmo Xian's arms, Yiqing Luo could hear the horrifying plants around her and the sound of them twisting around her. Yiqing Luo could vaguely see that Long Ao Tian seemed to be sucked into the plant's huge mouth, and she could also see Long Ao Tian's struggling movements, which made those plants seem as though they were swallowing. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but have goosebumps. She rubbed her arms and said, "There really is something wrong with these plants." These plants all had mysterious yin qi gathered on them. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a proper plant. She did think of man-eating plants. Unexpectedly, these plants were really man-eating plants. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, as her vision speedily surveyed the surroundings. There had to be a way to control or mutate plants. It can control so many plants. The source was definitely not small. But, with her and Dmo Xian as the epicenter, the surroundings were already covered with layers and layers of thick black plants, which completely blocked Yiqing Luo's vision. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5305. Yiqing Luo could only use her perception to sense the surroundings to see if there was any strange source. After she sensed it, Yiqing Luo was a little surprised. She wondered how many cultivators' lives had Huang Wuyo sacrificed and how much of their profound energy had he absorbed. Within 100 miles radius, as long as it was within her perception range, it was all covered by Huang Wuyo's profound yin qi. Wasn't he trying to break the God Emperor's seal and escape? According to her deduction, Huang Wuyo's current condition was absolutely not any better. Previously, Huang Wuyo wanted to use his full strength to break the seal, so he waited and waited. Her appearance had ruined Huang Wuyo's plans. This led to Huang Wuyo breaking the seal forcefully. The current Huang Wuyo had at least preserved 60% of his strength, which was already considered very good. Even if Huang Wuyo had used a forbidden technique to absorb other people's profound energy as nourishment, it was also impossible to create such a huge spatial enchantment, and to be able to control so many plants? Just as Yiqing Luo was pondering deeply, suddenly a weak energy, almost undetectable, jumped slightly under her perception. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and looked straight in that direction, separated by a dense cluster of spiraling plants. Her vision seemed to have penetrated through the plants. Dmo Xian looked at her. Found something? Yiqing Luo nodded. Is there any way to push these strange plants away? Dmo Xian directly used his actions to answer. His sleeves, which looked like flowing purple clouds, fluttered slightly. A formless profound wave suddenly shook the surroundings of the two of them. A majestic aura rippled in the air, causing people to feel horrified as it slowly spread out. The densely packed plants were instantly dispersed by the shockwave. Yiqing Luo confirmed the position, clenched the glower flame fan and leaped up. At the same time, Qi Yin spread its wings and soared into the sky, steadily catching Yiqing Luo. The raging flame was burning the sky full of plants. Ah Xian, go check on Long Out Yin, I'll observe the situation from afar. Yiqing Luo said to Dmo Xian. With Qi Yin. Qi Yan's fire could purify the world's evil. These plants controlled by the mysterious yin qi would be burned by the blazing flames. Yiqing Luo directly rushed towards the place where she had sensed the weak fluctuation earlier. She sat on the back of Qi Yan, her long and narrow eyes narrowed vigilantly, looking at the situation in front of her from a distance. Under the burning of the flames, the plants turned into ashes bit by bit. It was then revealed under the lush plants, the lines that looked like blood veins intertwined on the ground in an intricate and complicated manner. The strands of blood were faintly discernible under the raging flames. As for the place where Yiqing Luo detected the fluctuation earlier, the veins of blood intertwined and formed a strange totem. There, 3 bloody bones were inserted horizontally. Above them, one could still see the blood that slowly slid to the ground and spread among the blood wisps. It looked extremely terrifying. It was that blood bone, controlling these plants, or rather, the source of this spatial barrier. Yiqing Luo made Qi Yan lower its altitude and slightly nearer. He could see it clearly. Among the blood veins on the ground, every place where the totem was drawn, there were these 3 blood bones. It could be seen that her guess was right. These blood bones should be the bones of those cultivators whose profound energy had been absorbed by Huang Wuyo. This Huang Wuyo was really vicious and merciless to the extreme, destroying the cultivators' profound energy and profound jade heart. Even the corpses were not spared. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5306. She knew the source of these strange plants and where they came from. It was much easier to resolve this array. Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved and the glower flame fan swept up thousands of huge waves as it surged towards the blood bones on the ground. At the same time she made the scarlet flame fan spit out raging flames towards the blood bones. But things didn't proceed as Yiqing Luo had expected. When the profound energy attacked, the blood traces on the blood bones and the viscous liquid were like a huge open mouth, trying its best to absorb the surging profound energy. And when the raging flames got close to the blood bones, numerous plants pounced on it, using the thick black smoke to form the plants which looked like they were brandishing their claws and fangs to block the raging flames. This sky full of plants. No matter how the raging flames burned, there were plants that pounced forward to protect the blood bones. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. These blood bones? And this sky full of thick black plants? Could it be? Yiqing Luo thought of a possibility as her expression changed drastically as she swiftly turned her head to look at Diamo Xian. Ah Xian, this is bad. Huang Wuyo intends to absorb both of our energy. This array. It was not a formation used to trap them at all, but an array that absorbed profound energy. These plants were the medium to absorb the profound energy. Just like when she was at the God Emperor's sealed grounds, she saw those densely packed blood lines. They were all using this medium to absorb a cultivator's energy. No wonder. Previously when she was protected in Diamo Xian's arms, she was still able to release her perception through the densely packed plants. Probably at that time. These plants were already absorbing Diamo Xian's profound energy which was condensed into a protective shield. Yiqing Luo was just about to tell Diamo Xian about this discovery. She heard Diamo Xian's slightly anxious voice rang, "Not good. Lil Luo, our Long Outyin is missing." This sentence completely interrupted the words that Yiqing Luo was about to say. Her eyes narrowed and her heart skipped a beat. Long Outyin had disappeared? Which meant that Long Outyin wasn't swallowed by those plants. A thought suddenly arose in Yiqing Luo's mind. Her face turned green and white as she immediately surveyed the surroundings alertly, her fingertips gripping the glower flame fan tighter. But, the next moment, her body suddenly tensed up. Something cold pressed against her skin. Before he could react, her entire body was directly strangled by a strong force, directly falling from Qian's back, directly falling in the direction of a certain blood bone. Yiqing Luo had just moved. An intense pain came from his skin. It was as if something was slowly corroding. She lowered her eyes and looked at the black chain that had suddenly wrapped around her waist. It was as if there was a thick black mist surrounding it. Moreover, Yiqing Luo also saw a familiar face on the iron chain fatty. The man who was as cold as cast, curled his thin lips. Between his cold and sinister eyes, there was a hint of coldness. A dim light flickered in his eyes as if it was covered with frost. Long Outyin. Yiqing Luo spat out 3 words with a pause. That strong suction force caused her to be unable to utter a single word. Under the pull of the suction force and the iron chain around her waist, her entire body abruptly melted into the bloody bone. Vaguely, Yiqing Luo seemed to see Diamo Xian swiftly rushing over after splitting the sky full of plants. His hand held onto hers. But, the next moment, she lost all her consciousness as she fell into darkness. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 5307. Yiqing Luo was awakened by the heat. The burning sensation on her skin, as if she was about to be devoured by the flames, caused her to open her eyes. What greeted her eyes was a huge patch of red. The flames were swaying, giving off coquettish sparks, like a moving fire snake, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo discovered that she was in the middle of a burning fire. What was going on? There was no sound from the surroundings. There was no response from Diamo Xian. In the quiet space, other than the sound of the burning flames, there was only her heavy breathing. Yiqing Luo wanted to move, thinking of a way to leave this fire. But the moment she moved, she heard the sound of iron chains rubbing against the ground. There was a force on her waist, imprisoning her in place. Yiqing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she seemed to be bound by an iron chain. That iron chain. She remembered correctly. It seemed to be the iron chain that bound Long Outyen when she first met him. Was Long Outyen? He schemed against her? Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly, a trace of coldness flashed past her eyes. This was not the first time Long Outyen schemed against her. She actually thought that such an arrogant person like Long Outyen would not bother to play any tricks in the dark. She had always thought that. Long Outyen might have had a different opinion about Fenggu, her mother. So, they were not considered friends but not enemies either. But Long Outyen schemed against her once again. What was he trying to do? And where was this place? Yi Qing Luo endured the piercing pain from the blazing fire, and that uncomfortable feeling of even breathing was boiling hot, as she tried her best to open her eyes, surveying the surroundings. It was best to determine where she was before making any plans. But as far as she could see, other than the burning flames, there was nothing else. Probably her body had gone through several rounds of transformation and consolidation. Or probably this kind of flame had other uses. Although the heat was high, but it was not enough to directly burn her into ashes. But, according to the sky full of flames and the discomfort from her body, she had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, she might really be burned into ashes. For these flames. Of course he had to use a stronger fire to devour it. Yi Qing Luo concentrated and wanted to summon Qi Yen out. However, when she concentrated her mental power into the pet space, there was only silence. It was completely empty, he couldn't feel anything. Her connection with the pet space had been cut off. Not only that, Yi Qing Luo also discovered that the azure aqua set on her hands and neck, as well as the profound phoenix ring, had all been removed. Under the raging flames, there was only the dim and lusterless azure dew bracelet on her delicate jade-like arm, appearing extremely lonely. When Yi Qing Luo looked over carefully, she could faintly see. On the surface of the azure dew bracelet, there was a faintly discernible floating black yin qi. This was the mysterious yin qi. Someone had used profound yin energy to seal her azure dew bracelet. Yi Qing Luo probed her divine sense into the azure dew bracelet and sure enough, it was blocked by something. In other words, she had nothing to rely on now. Stripping her of everything she relied on was to prevent her from escaping from this fiery land. What is Long Outyen trying to do? No, that's not right, it should be, Long Outyen and Huang Wuyo, what are they trying to do? There was no azure dew bracelet, no azure dew artifact. Just relying on her alone. She wanted to break free from the iron chain on her waist and escape this fiery land. I'm afraid it would be a little difficult. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love, everyone please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love and hit me. Chapter 5308. Ding, suddenly the sound of metal clashing was heard. Yi Qing Luo hadn't even had the time to identify where the sound came from. Following that, she heard a familiar, sinister and treacherous voice, laughing sinisterly, "Demon Dragon, you've done very well." That voice wasn't it. Huang Wuyo's voice. Following that was Long Outyen's icy cold voice. "This seat merely hates that woman's daughter, it has nothing to do with you, don't flatter yourself. This seat is able to obtain this vessel no matter what, it's all because of you." Huang Wuyo didn't mind Long Outyen's rudeness. When this seat fuses with that vessel which can nurture the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, swallow the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance and unify the world. This seat will definitely let you become the Lord Demon Dragon who is second only to one and above all others. Long Outyen snorted coldly, "If this seat wants, I can totally override your head, who do you think you are?" He paused for a moment and continued to humiliate, "Revered Wu Yu, if this seat wants to deal with you based on your current state, can you stop this seat?" Huang Wuyo didn't make a sound. But from the rhythm of his breathing, Yi Qing Luo could roughly feel that Huang Wuyo was suppressing his own anger. After all, based on Huang Wuyo's temperament, he had always been arrogant and looked down on everyone. To be humiliated by Long Outyen in this way. If Huang Wuyo was at his peak, he would definitely tear Long Outyen apart with his bare hands. But Huang Wuyo endured it. He opened his mouth and his voice was much colder. "Then this seat has to thank Lord Demon Dragon for showing mercy." This sentence was said with extreme ridicule. Long Outyen seemed as though he couldn't hear the hidden anger in Huang Wuyo's words as he calmly accepted Huang Wuyo's gratitude. "It's good that you know, this seat doesn't want to be involved with you, so this seat shall leave first." Huang Wuyo opened his mouth again. "Don't tell me Lord Demon Dragon doesn't want to see how that last Feng Qing Luo is refined into this vessel?" This seat knows that woman's daughter isn't living well, that's enough. After Long Outyin finished his words, there was no more sound from him. Outside, the sinister and cold profound Yin Qi was wreaking havoc. Huang Wuyo roared furiously, Long Outyin! Long Outyin! How dare you be rude to this seat? Once I merge the divine phoenix profound heart jade with the vessel, I will kill you first. The commotion lasted for a long time. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she roughly understood that she might be in a container, being refined by the intense flame. Huang Wuyo was planning to, after refining her and the divine phoenix profound heart jade, he would use them directly? This is too sinister. Huang Wuyo had even specifically cut off her azure water divine artifact and the mental magnetic field that connected it to the azure water bracelet and the pet space. It seemed like they had made sufficient preparations. However, the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Outyin had transmitted a message. The current Huang Wuyo seemed to be in a very bad condition. Huang Wuyo endured Long Outyin's blunt insults. As for Long Outyin, his attitude was insolent, as though he could kill Huang Wuyo anytime he wanted. In other words, as long as she could think of a way to leave this refined vessel, he could deal with Huang Wuyo directly. Of course, the prerequisite was, she wouldn't be refined by Huang Wuyo directly. She had to think of a way. The current her was still able to withstand this kind of intense flame. But as time dragged on, no one knew what accidents would happen. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and collect me. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 5309. Yiqing Luo tried to nudge her body. The iron chain around her waist had imprisoned her so that she couldn't move at all. She pursed her lips as her vision swept across the blazing flames, as though her fingers were surrounded by the flames. Under the illumination of the flames, her fingertips seemed to be crystal clear, like a beautiful jade in the midst of the flames. And on that beautiful jade fingertip, there was an exquisitely carved profound phoenix ring, which looked like a flying phoenix, but now it was empty. She rubbed it with her fingers. She wasn't used to it. Usually, whenever she thought of Diamo Xian and saw the profound phoenix ring, it would feel like Diamo Xian was by her side. But now, she habitually looked and touched it. But it was empty without the touch of the ring. Huang Wuyo obviously knew about the connection between this profound phoenix ring and Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she vaguely saw Diamo Xian flying towards her. Most likely, Diamo Xian might be nearby now. Thinking of Diamo Xian, her long and narrow eyes glowed with a bright light. The blazing flames couldn't cover up the radiance in her eyes. She believed that her Xian would definitely find her. And before that, she had to protect herself and think of a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo could roughly deduce from the heat of the refining vessel and the intensity of the flames. If this refining vessel wanted to refine her, it would need at least 5 days. She wasn't sure how long she had been unconscious. At this time, the discomfort she felt was only a prickling pain on her skin and her breathing was a little hot. She should be able to hold on for another day or two. But after all, this was Huang Wuyo's refining vessel. It was easy to give birth to heresy. Moreover, everything she knew so far was just her guess. The most important thing now was to think of a way to break free from the iron chains. These iron chains seemed to have a close connection with Long Outyin. It seemed like it was the iron chains that sealed Long Outyin's body. Back then, her mother was able to seal Long Outyin with the iron chains. She would definitely be able to deal with this iron chain. Time passed by slowly. About 2 days' time. Yiqing Luo finally sensed a clue from the iron chain. She focused her mind and endured the discomfort of being burned by the raging fire. She released her spiritual perception ability and sensed the source of the power of the iron chain. After exhausting his profound energy and mental energy, he spent a tremendous amount of effort to finally cut the iron chains around his waist and 4 limbs. Her body, without the support of strength, fell heavily on the fiery ground. The raging fire dragon instantly drowned her. Although it was comfortable to be free from the chains. But right now Yiqing Luo wasn't any better. She sat on the ground, her whole body drenched in sweat. Her nostrils were filled with thin hot air. The scorching flames burned her skin red. Over the past 2 days, the temperature of the refining vessel had been increasing. When the burning flames brushed past her skin, the stinging sensation became more and more obvious and persistent. Her current body, no matter how many times it had been recast and strengthened, under the power of this flame, it was still unbearable. Especially, as the black smoke-like mysterious yin qi in the refining vessel gradually thickened. Yiqing Luo could feel that the divine phoenix profound heart jade in her heart was faintly agitated. She wanted to suppress it, but even she herself couldn't control herself. Revered Wu Yu. Suddenly, a hurried voice was heard. That person was obviously in a hurry as he knocked heavily against the refining vessel. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 53:10. A heavy collision sound was heard, causing the entire container to let out a buzzing sound. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Just a touch and she actually felt her entire body trembling slightly. That person's strength was so huge? Not allowing Yiqing Luo to think further, that person's words diverted Yiqing Luo's attention. Revered Wu Yu, it's bad. The cultivators from Earth Realm, Heaven Realm and God Realm have all attacked the Devil region. Even that demonic succubus woman had betrayed us at the last minute and told the World Mercenary Group where our army was hiding. Right now, all of our hidden armies have been completely destroyed. Just as that person's words landed, a heavy, heart-wrenching cough was heard. Huang Wuyo's voice was so sinister that it seemed to be covered in frost. What did you say? That person seemed to be frightened, and after some time, he trembled as he repeated what he said. Following that, he hurriedly said, Revered Wu Yu, not only that, the World Mercenary Group and Feng family have joined hands and led the other 3 realms cultivators to surround Mount Godless. Huang Wuyo laughed lowly, and that laughter was so sinister that it made one's hair stand. As he laughed, he suddenly smashed something. You're indeed the brothers that my daughter brought up. Each and every one of you are so affectionate and loyal. I'll grant them their wish. Revered Wu Yu, what do you want to do? That person suddenly screamed in terror, and in the end, there was only a miserable cry and no other sound. Huang Wuyo slowly stood up as his body swayed and his footsteps were heavy. Yiqing Luo could hear the footsteps getting closer. Following that, there was another slight tremor. Above her head, Huang Wuyo's sinister voice floated over. Those brothers of yours are indeed affectionate and loyal. This seat refines you into this seat's body in front of them. Do you think they can't wait to cut this seat into 1,000 pieces, or because you have become a part of this seat's body, they can't do anything to this seat? His laughter was sinister and a little crazy. He laughed for a long time. Probably because no one could give him a response, he carelessly knocked on the container again. Maybe, you've already been refined into a container. Then I'll devour you in front of them. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. Just now, the conversation between that man and Huang Wuyo had shocked her. Had everyone in the 3 realms banded together to surround the Fiend Domain and deal with Huang Wuyo? Also, what was Huang Wuyo's hidden army? There was not a hint of panic in Huang Wuyo's tone. It was as if the so-called joint attack of the 3 realms was expected. As for him, victory was within his grasp. What's more, she was using her to provoke her companions. Yiqing Luo's heart was faintly uneasy. Did Huang Wuyo have a trick up his sleeve, or was it because, after refining her, he would be able to obtain 100% of his strength? Was that why he was fearless? No. She could not let her brothers fight alone. She had to find a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up with sparks of fire. Under the sky full of raging flames, it wasn't suppressed by the light. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision suddenly swept across something. By the time she fixed her eyes on it, there was only an endless raging fire. As though everything was just her misconception. Yiqing Luo was certain. Earlier at that moment, she had vaguely seen a flash of purple light in that direction. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:11. Purple light? In this raging flame, other than the sky full of red, there was no other color. The sudden appearance of the purple light. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as she immediately headed towards the direction of the purple light without hesitation. The moment she moved, the surrounding flames seemed to have grown eyes as it swallowed her up. The increasingly intense scorching feeling eroded her body and mind, spreading to her limbs and bones. Yiqing Luo gave a muffled groan. No matter how much she could endure. Under this kind of scorching flame, the feeling of burning her into ashes was still very uncomfortable. Her eyes were red. Her body was suffering from the intense pain of the flames. She couldn't help but feel irritated and stuffy. Her fingertips brushed past her fingers which were already empty, suppressing the fickleness in her heart as she tensed up her nerves. In this refining vessel she absolutely could not release her profound qi. All the energy would become the vessel's energy. She knew. Huang Wuyo was provoking her. He intentionally used the news from the outside world and the psychological pressure caused by the sky full of flames to agitate her. Once she panicked, she wanted to rush out of the refining vessel. Then it would go according to Huang Wuyo's intentions. Yiqing Luo continued to move forward. That raging flame followed swiftly. As though it was staring at her, no matter what, it had to swallow her up. By the time she reached the direction of the purple light, it was already the time for a stick of incense to burn. Yiqing Luo was already exhausted, all the sweat on her body evaporated under the intense flames, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. She forcefully exhaled a few mouthfuls of hot air as she looked around. But there was no trace of the purple light. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as she slowly sat down to rest. Earlier along the way, the pain of contending against the raging flames was simply unbearable for ordinary people. If she was slightly careless, it was very likely that she would be completely swallowed up by that sky full of flames. But, in this process, Yiqing Luo obviously discovered that her body's degree of heat resistance was getting higher and higher. Even the raging flames wrapped around her face. She felt that it wasn't that unbearable anymore. Other than the huge expanse of raging flames, which kept surging into her body, as though it wanted to refine her internal organs through the raging flames. There was also the profound jade heart in his chest, which was also unceasingly stirring. She could already endure being engulfed by such raging flames. This was a good sign, as long as he could stand the heat. She would have a greater chance of escaping this place. Just then, suddenly that purple light flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes once again. This time it was extremely obvious in front of Yiqing Luo. It was obvious. Yiqing Luo seemed to have sensed the other party's presence at one glance. Her pink lips moved slightly as she spat out 3 words, Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he opened his mouth, a heat wave rushed into his mouth. Her throat was dry and prickly. That purple light, it was Zhu Wuxin's aura. What was going on? Not allowing Yiqing Luo to think deeply. The purple light disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo very quickly. But Yiqing Luo saw it clearly. In the direction where the purple light disappeared. Yiqing Luo only hesitated for several breaths before she lifted her feet and walked towards that direction with difficulty. Zhu Wuxin might know how to leave this refining vessel. As time went by, Yiqing Luo's footsteps became heavier and heavier. She felt as though she was walking on the spot. The direction of Zhu Wuxin's aura was obviously very near, but it seemed as though it was far away. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:12. But that faint purple light seemed to have given Yiqing Luo her last hope. Relying on her amazing willpower, Yiqing Luo was actually close to the refining vessel's body under the burning of the raging flame. Yes, the body. Yiqing Luo could clearly see the outline of the body that was being burned by the raging flame. Vaguely, she could see the treacherous and mysterious totem jumping in the fire. Yiqing Luo estimated in her heart. This refining vessel was about the size of an ordinary family's main hall. But it was difficult to take a step here. She was still suppressing the discomfort and only managed to walk a few hundred meters of distance. But she had already touched the body, then she was not far from finding the exit. This thought made Yiqing Luo's sweaty eyes slightly sober. Clang, a slight collision sound. Yiqing Luo's gaze followed it. Faint purple light surged on the totem on the body of the weapon. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand. Boom! A fire dragon mixed with fire and lightning fell down. Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly felt hot. Following that, the blazing flame wrapped around her. At the same time, Huang Wuyo's furious voice came from outside the refining vessel. You're really the daughter of Ge. Your life is so tough that you can still stir up trouble in there? Following that was the sound of Huang Wuyo's footsteps. Step by step like a clap of thunder. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes tightly, her whole body felt like it was being burnt by the raging flame. She could even smell a thick burnt smell on her body. But when the raging flame was wrapping around her, she could feel an inexplicable aura surging rapidly from her body. That was a kind of power that even she couldn't control. The buzzing sound in her ears made her dizzy. In front of her, there was only a thick red, I'd like to see how you're going to break my formation. Huang Wuyo's tone was filled with anger as he sneered. Although Yiqing Luo was fighting against the raging flame, but for some reason her 5 senses were very sensitive. She could clearly hear that Huang Wuyo seemed to be searching for something outside the refining vessel and then stood beside it. A drop of thick black blood fell from the top of his head. Yiqing Luo could vaguely smell the faint scent of blood. And the moment that drop of black blood fell into the raging flames. Boom, 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 the entire crafting vessel instantly erupted with a strong dark force. Yiqing Luo's entire body was sent flying by this force, crashing heavily onto the body of the weapon. She didn't even have the strength to stabilize her body. She slid down from the artifact and fell to the ground. The increasingly intense and terrifying fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it twisted towards Yiqing Luo. Originally, I wanted to slowly refine you. Since you don't know what's good for you, then you shall follow that divine phoenix profound heart jade of yours and become mine. Yiqing Luo's ears were buzzing non-stop, as though something was about to burst her eardrums. Her breathing became heavier. The scalding heat made her feel as if her throat was on fire. The tyrannical power in her body was still rampaging through her limbs and bones. It was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Oh, she moaned softly. One of his hands moved slowly with some difficulty. In the end, it was on her abdomen. The scalding heat energy was gathering towards this direction bit by bit. Pain, her abdomen, so painful. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:13. Yiqing Luo's breathing tightened bit by bit. In the haze, she saw the faint purple light encircling her bit by bit. In the end, it encircled her waist. The fusion of the two energies made the pain in her body slightly alleviated. What is this? Huang Wuyo's shocked voice was heard from outside the refining vessel. Following that was the sound of stumbling footsteps as though something was colliding. No, how is this possible? How could she possibly have such powerful energy? The refining vessel was not only refining Yiqing Luo's body, not only refining Yiqing Luo's divine phoenix profound jade heart, but also it was refining her soul, her everything. Logically speaking, in this refining vessel, Yiqing Luo's energy would be refined along with the refining vessel, becoming the energy after the refinement. How could she possibly be able to explode such powerful energy? So powerful that even he felt horrified. And the current Yiqing Luo totally didn't know the shock in Huang Wuyo's heart. Her hands were tightly pressed against her abdomen, her fingers wanted to exert force, but she forcefully endured it. The two small hands which were still fair under the raging flames, were now bursting with green veins. The energy which spread from her abdomen to her limbs and bones seemed to have broken through the seal in her body. A steady flow of profound energy broke through the blockage in her body, attacking the heat which was like boiling water. Yiqing Luo felt the swelling pain in her abdomen, making her feel uncomfortable. But the energy which spread throughout her body made her greedily absorb the profound jade heart, bit by bit merging with her body. She didn't know how long had passed. When Yiqing Luo opened her eyes again, she could no longer feel the heat in the raging flames. As though she was already used to this heat. As though she was already immune to the heat in the refining vessel. She didn't feel any discomfort at all. The faint purple light encircled her abdomen bit by bit, before finally returning to a peaceful state. At the same time, the unbearable swelling pain also dissipated in an instant. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped, as she touched her abdomen curiously. Just now. What was going on? Why did she feel as though there was another energy which helped her? Without much time to think, the refining vessel suddenly shook violently. Her body suddenly staggered, and her whole body fell down along with the shaking of the refining vessel. At the same time, the flames that were spreading in the surroundings also gradually subsided as the refining vessel shook. What are you waiting for? Come out now. A clear voice whispered in her ear. Yiqing Luo raised her head and saw a bright ray of light right on top of her head. That was the exit. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes lit up slightly as she speedily got up and headed towards that exit. No. This seat absolutely won't let you escape. Huang Wuyo's furious and frenzied voice was like bursts of thunder, blasting into Yiqing Luo's ears. A strong pressure came crashing down from the sky, as though it wanted to press Yiqing Luo back into the refining vessel. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved slightly and a bewitching red profound glow encircled her. There was a loud bang sound. Yiqing Luo broke through the brilliant rays. Then a hand grabbed her wrist and pulled her to the side. What entered her eyes was a strange and cold basement. In such a huge space there were only 8 candles, swaying, flickering, illuminating the surrounding environment. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Chapter 53:14. Yiqing Luo took a clear look at the person in front of her. It was no longer the man in the fiery red robe. Right now, he was dressed in a snow-white robe, which contrasted against that pale face of his. His lips were devoid of any color of blood. A pair of chilly eyes congealed deeply on Yiqing Luo, as though it was filled with countless emotions. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she clasped the man's wrist and felt his pulse. "Zhuwuxen, what's the matter with you?" Her fingertips had yet to touch the man's wrist when it was avoided. His voice was chilly as he replied calmly, "I'm fine, now isn't the time to worry about me." Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter as the gaze she used to look at Zhu Wuxian was filled with suspicion. Zhu Wuxian avoided her pulse checking. Apparently it was because his pulse was extremely weak now. She stretched out her hand and was about to forcefully clasp Zhu Wuxian's wrist to check on his condition. Zhu Wuxian suddenly clasped her wrist as his pale lips spat out 2 words, "Be careful." He used a little strength and pulled the young lady into his arms. Her legs swiftly moved backwards. Bam! The intense profound wave caused that candle flame to sway, as though it was brandishing its claws, searching for its prey in the darkness. After avoiding that attack, that icy cold large palm on her wrist had already shifted away. Under the darkness, the man's labored breathing could be heard clearly. Something wasn't right with Zhu Wuxian's condition. But she didn't give Zhu Wuxian a chance to check on his body. Yiqing Luo frowned as she took out a medicine bottle from her bosom and stuffed it into Zhu Wuxian's hand. "Huang Wuyo should be in a weakened state now, so it's easier to deal with him. After I settle him, I'll bring you away." That bottle of medicinal pills was specially refined by her to be carried around with her. It had the miraculous effect of prolonging one's life and healing injuries. It was because she had several experiences that she was unable to retrieve the medicinal pills which were stored in her realm space in case her mental energy was disconnected. She specially hid it in the most secretive place on her body. Huang Wuyo had only taken away her profound phoenix ring. He would never have thought that she would have hidden other pills on her body. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up as she stood in front of Zhu Wuxian. The girl's figure was slender and could not be considered tall. However, it gave people an indescribable sense of security. The girl's slender fingers gently moved in the darkness. A flame feather fan appeared between her slender fingers. She glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxian. Her tone was calm and her words were firm. "You stay alive and wait for me. You can't die without my permission." As soon as she finished speaking, she leaped into the air, her fiery red dress drawing a beautiful arc in the air. When the glower flame fan opened up, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel a huge surge of energy in her body, surging and surging, following the music in her body, rapidly spreading to the glower flame fan. The glowing flame fan was bound to her soul. When she was refining the vessel, both her body and soul were being refined, so she was unable to summon her gourd flame fan. After leaving the refining vessel, Yiqing Luo also gave it a try. The connection between her and the sacred beast, as well as the azure water divine armament, was still broken. However, only the gourd flame fan could sense her. This was enough to show that Huang Wuyo still had some restraining fear towards the 4 sacred beasts and the azure water divine armament. Even though he felt that the refinement had a 100% success rate, he was still fully prepared. There was some kind of array in this place which suppressed Yiqing Luo's mental energy, the sacred beast and the azure water divine armament's connection. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:15. Then, as long as Huang Wuyo died, all the problems would be solved. Yiqing Luo's target was very clear. Directly towards the direction where the profound energy came from. The glower flame fan on her fingertips swept up an imposing profound wave. The majestic air waves surged in the entire sealed underground room. The ground shook and the stone walls started to crumble due to the strong surrounding air pressure. Yiqing Luo's gaze shifted to her own hand as her eyes shone slightly. This feeling? It was as though all the energy which had been sealed in her body for a long time had been released. Furthermore, she could control her own power without any qualms. She didn't feel the slightest strain or the slightest bit of backlash. It was totally, unprecedentedly relaxed. How could her body, under the circumstances where she had not advanced to profound grade, suddenly undergo such an earth-shattering change? Without much time to think, Yiqing Luo's attack had already landed directly on that black figure in the dark. Yiqing Luo's action of escaping from the refining vessel had obviously disrupted the other party's plans and rhythm. His furious attack was also avoided by Zhu Wuxian and Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's counterattack was avoided by him. Under the dim candlelight, one could vaguely see the figure who was shrouded in a black cloak. Yiqing Luo's brows narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved swiftly. The raging profound energy was like a fire snake as it swiftly coiled towards the other party. The profound wave spread extremely quickly. In just a moment, the other party was trapped within her attack range. Fengqing Luo. The other party's voice was filled with resentment as it carried a vicious murderous intent, as though he was extremely infuriated. Yiqing Luo only felt that this voice sounded a little strange, but she couldn't tell what was strange about it. But she didn't think too much about it, because at this moment, she was completely certain that the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Ao Tian in the refining vessel had been verified. The current Huang Wuyo had forcefully broken through the Divine Phoenix Seal previously and then expended a huge amount of energy to set up such a huge trap in Mount Wu Ren. Even if there was a sinister array which could replenish his energy. But after all, his deeds had already spread throughout the Devil Domain and other realms. Other than his corpse puppets which could capture food for him or the captives from the battlefield, he had no other way to obtain sufficient food. The current Huang Wuyo, his strength was in a weakened state. That was to say, now was the best chance to kill Huang Wuyo. Yiqing Luo swept upwards, the glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, aiming straight for the opponent's vitals. Fengqing Luo, can you really do it? Suddenly, the black figure's voice became low, revealing a strange gentleness. It was a gentleness that was completely different from Huang Wuyo's ruthless and sinister voice. Meanwhile, Yiqing Luo stood in front of the black figure at a close distance as she saw that person's sleeves moving slightly and the black cloak which was covering his head slowly fell off. The candlelight swayed even more violently. It clearly illuminated the gentle and elegant face of the person in front of him. It was a handsome face. His facial features were refined, and he looked like a noble young master, noble and awe-inspiring. In particular, those glass-like eyes seemed to contain the warmth of the spring breeze. Yiqing Luo's action stopped just like that. A pair of long and narrow eyes widened in disbelief. Widened. How could it possibly be him? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.